This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another, what I know is going to be spooktacular episode of Bells with Books. Of course, I am your host, Miranda, and I am joined forever and always by one of my bestest friends, Bianca.
Hello!
Hello! How you
is?
Oh, how you is?
I am splendid.
Splendid. That's a nice word, splendid.
That's the word of the day.
Word of the day?
Yeah.
Splendiferous.
What is the exact definition of splendid? What does the Google say? Splendid definition. The things I think of: magnificent, very impressive, excellent, very good.
For some reason, when you were giving those, all I kept thinking about was Jules going very demure, very mindful.
We're very demure. We're very mindful. We're very splendid.
Very demure. Are you kidding me? I am like an unhinged goblin on crack, and I know it.
I said that to Brad the other day. I was like, "It's very demure," and he was like, "Bianca, stop." So I'm not allowed to say that anymore.
I actually made a TikTok that used a Selena boo where she's like, "I am not demure," and I got a lot of people loved me for that one. I was like, dang.
Well, I was not demure when Emily Henry announced the title of her new book.
I mean, how can you be demure? So tell the boys and girls, what is the title of Emily Henry's new book?
Great Big Beautiful Life. And this title and the book is inspired by one particular song off of Taylor Swift's album Folklore, because we all know Emily Henry is a huge Swiftie.
You know, noticed that lately, just to interject real quick, we got a lot of author ladies that are like big Swifties.
It's because Taylor knows how to pen too. Take inspiration from other writers.
Sure, I'm gonna let you talk all about that because I know nothing. I know not. Sorry. I'm sorry.
So supposedly this book is going to be, I'll say inspired by, it won't be based on, but it'll be inspired by The Last Great American Dynasty off of her album Folklore, which The Last Great American Dynasty is based on a true story of basically Taylor's house up in Rhode Island.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Holiday House. So, knowing what that song is about and what that song is based on, that gives me great hope for this book because I very much love that song and the lore behind it.
All of Emily's books are essentially romance genre, kind of, sort of, yes, no?
They're all put in the romance genre, but I have issues with that because the romance is typically not the center of the story.
I see what I feel you. I completely feel you on that because that's like, for example, I still use Goodreads, but I've been also actively trying to use Fable, and it tells you like how many books you've read in each genre, and it's saying that 34 of my reads this year are romance, and I'm like, no, they're not.
And see, remember when I texted you last year, because I forget what service I used, but it did the same thing to me. It said I had read like, at the time I had read like 70 something books, and it said like over half of them are romance. And I was like, no, excuse me, this is wrong.
So apparently a lot of my cozy mysteries, from what I'm gathering, when you go check out their tags, they also have the tag of romance because one of the tropes of a cozy usually is some sort of in the background, will they, won't they, or like flirtation going on. Usually, not always, but it usually happens. So that's why I have 34. It's saying I've read 34 romance novels this year. And I'm like, no, I have not. But okay.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to get it to load because I can't remember the.
I can't remember.
Why are you being slow?
I can't remember which one it was you used last year. My
Goodreads is being very dumb right now.
Mine was being slow too, and I thought it was just me. So
I think it was this. Okay, yeah. She has one called Beach Read, and
Yes.
I read it a couple of years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And its first tag is romance, but that is not what the story centers around. It centers around this woman who is trying to write a book and her basically neighbor who is also an author trying to write a book. Like, the romance is there, yes, but it's not the central plot, and I have issues with them doing that.
I am with you. So I'm glad you brought that up because like I said last night, I was looking over at my little Fable app, which honestly, I'm really digging it. I got a few complaints, but I'm digging it for any of those that were looking to switch. Because I feel like I constantly, at least once or twice a week, see some sort of chat where people, or like different book groups I'm in, where they're like, is anything to use other than Goodreads? So, and I've had a hard time with all the others. But that was a complaint I had. I was like, no, there's not been that many romance. What?
Well, in other book news, there is a new special edition of It Ends With Us coming out that will include Atlas's recipes, and it is available for pre-order now. I'm trying to see when it's supposed to be. It starts with us, not It Ends With Us. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I kind of wish it was just a cookbook, but then we kind of broached that territory of making the coloring book, and then it sounds a little iggy. So, yeah. I get it. I'm glad that it's recipes from It Starts With Us. That makes it different. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, because that's the one where Atlas has the restaurant, and we get Atlas's point of view on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he has the restaurant in the first book, but we get more of his point. We get him.
Yeah.
In the second book, which
fun see
fun
when it's
fact,
coming out.
You and I we both read that book for a pod a couple years ago now. I think when it came out, we didn't like it.
No. It was not necessary.
It was not necessary. Now, I will repeat while you're looking up what you're looking up. There were some one-liners in there and some jokes and quotes and stuff that I absolutely adored and I loved, but I could have done without the book as a whole.
So this special collector's edition will hit shelves November 26th.
So just in time for Christmas shopping.
Yep. Okay.
Perfect.
We're going to move on to Adaptation Minute. Since this is our October episode, both Miranda and I are in our spooky seasons now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been there, but okay.
Well, this month, since we are covering a Grady Hendrix book, we were looking up Grady Hendrix news, and we saw that one of his other books, The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, is getting a series adaptation at HBO, and that Grady Hendrix will be helping to work on the script himself.
And I will say, as someone who's recently read the book, I'm glad it's HBO that's doing it, because I feel like, I mean, yeah, you can push the boundaries at Netflix and stuff too, but HBO is just known for being able to, I mean, think about Sookie Stackhouse series, for example. There are things that take place in this book that you just need that HBO, if that makes sense. Not tacky, but there's a lot that happens in this there's a lot.
Yeah. The project was previously in development with Amazon, but it has now moved to Warner Brothers / HBO.
That's fine.
I'm trying to see. Oh, there's more news that is included in this article. It says that one of his other books, Horror Store, was previously in the works as a series for Fox, but is now in the works as a movie with New Republic Pictures.
That could be funny. I could see that in the guise of kind of Superstore.
Yeah.
That would be really good.
Which we'll get into this in the meat of our discussion, but if anyone has not read Grady Hendrix, yes, he does write horror, but he writes comedy horror.
I mean, there's a lot of there are horror moments, I think, for sure, definite horror moments, but there's some lines that come out of some of his books that I'm dying.
They are hilarious.
And I just really think he has a way of covering issues, real world issues, in such a different manner that it really is also, I don't know, kind of makes you think, kind of makes you Yeah.
I'll let you take the next one, Miranda.
Well, I was going to talk really quick about the Southern Book Club. Book.
No, you have the We Used to Live Here.
I know, but remember I told you I was going to say something about Southern Book Club?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I recently finished it, and I've heard a lot of people saying they didn't want to read it because there was like a lot of controversy, which I never saw a whole lot of controversy, but even when I texted you, you said there was some it's like problematic or could be, I forget how you actually worded it, so I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I think you said it something along the lines of it could be problematic, or some people thought it was problematic.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, after reading it, I think it is a very good, there are parts of it that is very hard. There was one part where I texted you and I was like, I can't right now. Like, I can't. But I think the problematic parts where they're talking about like racial, and class, not just necessarily race, but also like class, and how like the different, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say like financial groups, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it is different classes, isn't it?
Yeah, I think class.
Yeah, okay. So I think the way that it's done, I know a lot of people are like, this is problematic, but I think we have to take a step back and realize that this takes place in the 90s, isn't it? Like, it's like the 80s, 90s. It's like the height of like satanic panic, and class made a difference when, like, without spoiling anything in the book, this is just my take on it, and I want people to read it. That's why I wanted to put this out there real quick. Some of the things that take place, like police call response times for one side of town versus the other, that was real, and it's still real. And so people are being like, this is a problem, he shouldn't have written this. It's accurate. Like, it's extremely unfortunate, but it's how things were then, like, especially then. And I think he does a really good job, from my viewpoint, of kind of showing that, which I know is one of the problems.
That wasn't even the parts that I thought were, like, icky.
No, there's parts that are icky, but that's what I heard from everyone else when I dug into it. When you told me, like, people found it problematic, I was like, what do they find problematic?
That wasn't even on my problem list.
Like, a lot of it had to do with, like, race and class, but the other problem that I think maybe I have it right, because we've never actually said, I think one of the other things that he does a really good job of that makes it icky and disgusting is he just goes to prove that literally your neighbor and anyone can be a monster. Literally anyone can be a monster and harming, like, influencing your spouse and harming your children, and all of those.
I was like, my problem with the book was the pedophilia.
But I think that's the point of the book. I mean, but that's his point, I think, is that literally anyone can be a monster. Like, it was hard, but I really enjoyed the take.
But there was a whole chapter where I was just like, oh, okay, we're going to skip most of this.
Yeah. And yes, it is vampires, but just to go ahead and prepare those of you that have not read this is not a vampire like you have ever heard a description of before in your life. This is
very different.
It's very disturbing, but, like, it plays to the story. No, the pedophilia is there. We definitely have to, like, put that out there as a caveat, as a trigger warning. But I think he's trying to prove a point. Like, he's talking about satanic panic and like these weird groups that were created, almost like mini cults in small towns, and like devotion to people because you thought they were your savior. And
it was basically the Salem witch trials, but for vampires.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I just finished a book kind of about a different witch trials that fantastic. I cried.
Was that Slewfoot?
It was Slewfoot. It had a point in it where I cried because it was like too real. Like, people were done that way. Like, it made me sad.
Remind me who wrote Slewfoot?
Brom, Brom. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm putting it in the notes.
Yeah, I will definitely be reading more by Brom anyway. But I just wanted to add that because, and I probably will make a longer TikTok about it on our page, but, like, I just saw a lot of people are being like, this is a problem. And as someone that read it, there are things that will bother people and are problematic, but, like, when you dig into, like, the deeper meaning of what he's trying to, like, share, I'm like, I get it. This makes sense.
And see,
Absolutely.
I guess the stuff that you mentioned, it didn't quote bother me because I remembered like what time period it was written in.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess if you don't remember that can be a problem for some.
I think sometimes people don't, they just automatically put it in, because I was actually talking to a really good friend of mine about it that had also read it, and she was like, I was completely bothered by it. I hated it. Like, it bothered me. He was so wrong. And when I told her my opinions, I told her, I was like, I'm not trying to change your mind. She's like, actually, now that you've said that, the whole, like, it actually wasn't modern day. And that's how classism works. That's what happens. It's unfortunate and it's horrible, but it's what happens. And then she's like, then you're talking about how he's a monster and no one believes and everyone's like got the wool pulled over there. She's like, I didn't think about any of that. She's like, that makes so much more sense now. And I was like, oh, well, I feel smart. Thank you. But like, it is, but I still think it's a must read. I mean, yeah. So.
Well, you go ahead and talk about the next adaptation because I haven't read it or read anything about it.
I would like you to read it, but listen, if you don't, you don't. So, and how did you pronounce his last name? Because I'm not sure that I know how to pronounce his last name.
I said Kliewer.
Kliewer. That's what I was thinking too. Or
I don't know.
Kliewer. Anyway, either way, Marcus is a genius. And I read his book, his only book, which I'm totally baffled by. It's called We Used to Live Here. And after finishing it, which, by the way, 4 stars, highly recommend. I finished it yesterday, and I still keep, like, processing in my mind, like, what was real and what wasn't and what I think. And so I went to his Goodreads to see what else that he had written, and that's when I found out that this book was actually written as a serialized short story on Reddit, and he won Scariest Story of 2021 from No Sleep Forum, which, for those of you that aren't familiar, that's a forum with 18 million members. And so very quickly, apparently, Netflix came in and was like, we want those film rights, yo, which we've talked about this here before. Bianca and I have told you guys a million times. Just because the rights have been purchased and I think something has been optioned doesn't mean it's going to happen. But it is on the table still. It has not been axed or anything. So that's when Simon & Schuster also came in and said, we want you to publish this into a full book, not just a short story. And that's what we get in this full-length novel, We Used to Live Here. So I really hope that Netflix actually turns this into like a limited series and not a movie, because there's a lot here. And it's going to mess with your mind. Like it is paranormal horror, but it's also very much a thriller. Like, what is going on? What is real? Who is lying? Who's telling the truth? Very unreliable narrator type deal.
I love those, though.
Oh, yeah. I was here for it. And I was really bummed when I found out it was his only work so far. So I want to find, like, his social media and be like, and another one, please. Yeah. That's how I feel. Like, I think if he writes if his next book grabs me like that, he will be a one-click. He'll be a one-click buy.
Nice.
So I'm excited when I literally just finished it and couldn't stop thinking about it to find out it's been optioned already. It's like, yes! So.
Well, going with more of today's spooky news, How to Sell a Haunted House, also by Grady Hendrix, has been picked up by Legendary Entertainment / Ghost House Pictures. The latest article I could find was actually from last year, so there hasn't been an update. Yeah. But it's just saying that the movie rights have been sold, which we've already said that's not a guarantee. But that gives me hope because y'all will find out today that Miranda and I both love How to Sell a Haunted House. Mm-hmm. So I would love to see it on the screen. I think it could be done really well. I
think so. And Legendary is known for, Legendary makes horror movies. I mean, they do other things too, but they make horror movies. I mean,
let me see.
Legendary. They've done a lot of things, but
what do y'all got? What y'all got? Oh, they just did the Dune movies. Mm-hmm. Know that. Our catalog, film
a
catalog.
lot of movies, but they've done Godzilla versus Kong. They've done Dunes. I mean, so they know what they're doing, basically. They've done Crimson Peak, Krampus. They actually did the Warcraft movie, Godzilla, just the regular Godzilla.
They did Jurassic World too.
Yeah, I mean, so clearly they have like the Dark Knight. Like they've done the darker things, is what I'm getting at. They've done things that.
Yeah, most of their movies have that dark undertone to them.
So, I feel like that's a good house to pick this up. Essentially, I'm excited.
And then, if anyone has seen the new Beetlejuice movie, I have. It was pretty good. Not as good as the first one, but still pretty good. That producer is now attached to the Sometimes I Lie adaptation. Sometimes I Lie is a book by Alice Feeney. I have read it. I loved it. I thought it was really cool. It's about a woman who is in a coma and trying to figure out her life, basically, via the coma.
So this one came out obviously prior to Verity, if I remember correctly, but there's a lot of people that said if you enjoyed Verity that you would enjoy Sometimes I Lie.
Yes. It's not the same plot. I don't want to get that
No,
but it's had the same vibes to it.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Where you don't know what's real and what's not.
Kind of like the one I just finished. It's kind of unreliable. Like you're left kind of. That's what I meant. Like you kind of have this unreliable. Like what the heck here?
Yeah. But let's see. It's Tony Harper, who was the producer of Beetlejuice. Mm-hmm. The writer-producer is going to be Matt Charman, who did Bridge of Spies and Treason. And trying to see what else the article says. The series will be executive produced by Harper. Oh, he also worked on Netflix's Wednesday.
Oh, perfect. Well, you know what? That would make sense because him and Tim Burton have worked on both of them. So, I mean.
Yeah, I think that'll be pretty cool. And then we also have L. Kennedy's Off-Campus series has been picked up by Amazon for any of our L. Kennedy fans. I have never read any of her books, but I just saw that and I was like, I need to mention that on the podcast. Adaptation. There we go.
Oh, so we didn't have this on the list. So really quick, I'm not going to go in depth because I don't really know anything else. But according to Grady Hendrix Wiki, apparently Final Girl Support Group is also slated for a television adaptation. And of course, they did actually make My Best Friend's Exorcism.
Yeah, I still haven't watched that.
I still haven't either. I keep meaning to. That'll probably go on my list of fall watches because, But yeah, so apparently there's a lot of his stuff. And then apparently for a brief time in 2020, if you're listening to us, you probably like podcasts. He hosted a podcast called Super Scary Haunted Homeschool that talked about the history of vampires to promote Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Fun fact. Didn't know that.
One last adaptation that we want to mention is that Yellowface by R.F. Kuang has been optioned with Lionsgate. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be a TV show instead of a movie, if I remember correctly.
I kind of am for that. I don't know how you feel. I mean, I still love movies and like going to the movies, even though I haven't been to a movie in a long time. But I kind of like the idea of turning some of these books into like television series or even limited television series because it's like a one book thing or whatever, because it allows you to make sure you cover as much as possible.
And see, I don't know how I feel specifically about. Have you read Yellowface?
I haven't, but I plan to. I mean, you can go ahead and say what you need to.
It was a very well written book. I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed every R.F. Kuang book that I have read. This is the one thing where I was like, I kind of want it as a movie, just because I'll say like 75% of the book is the main character inside her head. I don't know how well that will translate to a TV show, honestly. I guess anything is possible, and maybe they can stretch out some things that were going on that maybe weren't as like prolific in the book.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like a good chunk of the book is just the character inside her head thinking through things.
Then you definitely would have to present that differently on screen, because you and I have both seen before where they tried to do it just in the head and it didn't work, and people that hadn't read the book were like, oh, what is happening? This is ridiculous, or this person's whiny, or whatever.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Twilight. You know what I'm talking about. You know the scene. You know the exact scene I'm talking about.
Yes,
Twilight
I do.
Girl, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. But that's what I always go back to when they're like, well, we tried to infer it. You can't infer it because on the pages of the book you in depth explained it. So like that is interesting. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, and now it's time to get to the meat of today's,
or the meat and bones.
So we are going to be discussing How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix.
We will be spoiling the crap out of this, so if you are not ready, come back after you've read it. And this is your final warning, spoiling How to Sell a Haunted House, talking in depth. We want you to stay, but if you haven't read it and you want to read it, come back later. Okay, no more warnings.
Now, this was my second time reading this. What is this your count for?
Number two.
Okay, so both are sick. How did you feel reading it the second time versus the first time?
Still the same. Loved it.
Yeah.
And like I actually had, because I knew what was coming, I had, so the first time, because we'll go ahead and say, so it deals heavily, obviously, with grief, like loss of parents, right? I unfortunately have lost a parent. So there were moments where like it really like, like I just needed a moment, you know? And in some ways, I would say this book kind of sort of has an unreliable narrator as well, if you think about it.
Yeah.
I still loved it. You know, one of my favorite quotes, which one was it? Hang on, I'll go find it. My favorite one was from Tomorrow, but there was one from this book I sent you as well. But I have to, before we go into this, I have to say, when I went in to read this, because I think Susan was going to read it too, and she hadn't yet. And you said, I wish I could find this. You said, let me see if I can find it while I tell you. So
there's no telling what I said.
We have a group chat, Bianca, and one of our very good friends, our very bestie friends, Susan. We have this group chat, and we've had this for years now. And a couple of years ago, when I was doing my first read of this, and I think Susan was like, oh, I want to read that one too. Bianca, oh, here it is. Trigger warning, because this book involves dolls and puppets. This is what Bianca said. And I said, dolls and puppets don't really bother me. To which Susan goes, that sounds great. Then later on, I'm like, Bianca! She's like, I tried to tell you. I'm like, no, you did not.
How else was I supposed to tell you without spoiling it?
Miranda, you are going to piss yourself. That would have been a better. Miranda, remember those stuffed animals that were all over your room when you were a kid? You might have nightmares. That is. I am not scared of clowns. I'm not scared of puppets, dolls. Like, some of them are really creepy, but I'm not scared of one. I even have a doll that I keep claiming American Horror Story needs to buy her from me to use, like, in the background. Like, that's how creepy she be. But I was like, oh, no.
So the first time I read this book, I read it on my breaks at work. Mm-hmm. And I had gotten to, we'll get to it later, but we got to a particularly spooky part of the book.
Yeah.
And I had to go back to work after reading that part. And I was like, I do not feel safe in the library right now.
Oh,
I was sitting at my desk going, every light in this library is about to be on. There will be no dark spots here. And what sucks is 2 of the study rooms have like motion sensor lights. And so, you know, sometimes they're faulty anyway. So they'll just blink on for no reason. And every time they did, I'm like, who's there? Something's coming to get me.
Oh my God.
Okay, but suffice it to say, even though I am a self-proclaimed baby and I don't do horror or anything, I can do Grady Hendrix. He puts a lot of comedy into his books. So there's good breaks, and horror is also, I'll say, not like the forefront of the book. There's always a really good underlying plot, and like there's reasoning behind it. It's not just like gore for no reason.
Oh yeah, I will definitely say when there is gore, there's an absolute reason why it's present. I won't say he doesn't have gore, because he does, not in every book. Like there is some gory.
There's gore in this book. Yeah,
there is in this book, and then there is in Southern. There's a lot in Southern that needs some trigger warnings. But I also think, in my head, another reason why you would like him versus like other, because I do like horror besides Grady, but he uses a lot of like pop culture references and like funny commentary that you can like equate to real life, and I think it makes it extremely relatable in a lot of ways.
So now to tell you a bit how the book is set up. Like Miranda said, this book does deal with grief. And while there are chapters in this book, obviously, there are different parts or sections to the book as well. And each section deals with a stage of grief. Yep.
So, there's, it's like a haunting past, like the power of like how much your past can affect your future. There's major complex family relationships, a lot of childhood trauma. There is also, in my way, they are already family, so I don't necessarily know if you'd say found family, because they are, but it's like acceptance and forgiveness within family. So there's a lot of themes that take place in this book.
But now we're going to do a dive. Yes. So chapter one is actually by itself. It's not part of any of the parts of grief. So chapter 1, our main character is Louise. She is calling her parents to tell them that she's pregnant. She was scared that her strict Southern parents were going to argue and be disappointed with her, but they were actually very delighted.
Yeah, I liked the quote. There's a quote from the narrator. It says, "But even in the 21st century, it's hard to predict how a pair of Southern parents would react to the news that their 34-year-old unmarried daughter was pregnant." And I was like, oh, as you and I grew up in the South, we know that is so true. Like,
yes.
Yes.
The baby daddy, his name is Ian. She hasn't told him yet. Her parents immediately fly out to California where she lives to help her set up for the baby, even though she's only 11 weeks. Like, they are so excited to have a grandchild. They want her to move back to Charleston, but Louise has some hesitations about doing that, which we'll get into later. It does say that Louise and her brother Mark don't get along. We don't exactly know what happened. But since this is told from Louise's point of view, we get the idea that he's just a lazy nobody. He doesn't want to better himself in any way. And Louise has always been the self-starter. She's always been the go-getter and the star child of the family.
Like, you did well. It's like we kind of gather here that it was like her parents always treated her like, well, we didn't have to help you. You were advanced. You did well in school. You wanted to work. You did all your jobs. And it's like she's leading you to believe that they babied him and they gave him everything and he didn't have to work hard. And that's kind of the vibe I was getting, at least.
Yeah. Like, everything was always handed to Mark where she had to work for it.
Yeah. So there's a little like animosity there, which I can understand.
And the last part of the chapter says, it wouldn't happen overnight, but that was okay. They'd have a lifetime to adjust to each other's new roles. A daughter becoming a mother becoming a grandmother. They would have years. As it turned out, she got 5.
Yeah.
And then we start with the denial section. So chapter 2, Louise names her daughter Poppy. She gets a very random phone call from her brother saying that she needs to come home. He's very frantic and not really making much sense. He's spewing a bunch of nonsense about them being nothing but energy and she realizes that Mark is drunk. It turns out that they had died in a car accident 2 days ago. Mark had waited 2 days to call and tell her.
Do you know how livid I would have been with any of my family members when my dad died? If they called me like immediately, like it was like within minutes, right? Do you know how beyond livid I would have been as someone that did live in a completely different state if you waited 2 days to tell me? Which that wouldn't have been possible because social media and the amount of people that like, I'm from a small town. I would have found out. But do you know, oh my God, really?
Yeah, no. But it just goes to show like how deep their relationship has eroded. Like there is no relationship.
Yeah, it's like very disjointed. It's like, well, it's like he's almost like I'm dealing with my parents' death. I can't worry about anybody else right now. And it's like she's your sister. Those are her parents too. Like, come on.
Louise ends up calling her Aunt Honey, who also lives there in Charleston, and Aunt Honey kind of tells her basically what's going on. She doesn't give like exact details, but she's just like, just pack a bag and come back to Charleston.
I love Aunt Honey, by the way.
Yeah. So chapter 3, Louise leaves Poppy with Ian and flies back to Charleston. She checks into her hotel and then drives to her parents' house. She goes in the back door, but she hears a man talking. She realizes it's the TV. 2 of her mom's collectible dolls were sitting in her dad's recliner, seemingly facing the TV. And their names are Louise and Mark. These dolls were something that her mom had made. Her mom made a bunch of dolls, made a bunch of puppets. Like that was her job, her livelihood. She always was making puppets and dolls and stuffed animals. These 2, she named Louise and Mark for her children. So when she became an empty nester, those dolls became her children. And she named them so that they could always be with her, basically. And between the...
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, we'll get into that more, but like that part, as you get further, is really creepy. Like, yes. Nothing against the mother, but like, it's really worrisome.
Between the 2 dolls lay the remote to the TV. She hesitantly grabs the remote, turns the TV off, and then she notices her dad's cane. Why was her dad anywhere without his cane? It should have been with him in the car. Mm-hmm. That's weird. And then she sees a hammer and a bit of the table missing in the kitchen. This is not at all like them. Her parents were not slobs. They would always use something and then put it up. So to see this stuff just haphazardly laying about, alarm bells are going off in her head. Her mom had a Christian puppet ministry for kids, and the house was absolutely full of dolls and puppets. Everywhere you looked, dolls and puppets.
That's why I was terrified. You are very Christian. You should know exactly what I'm talking about. When they used to do those ridiculous puppet shows, and they even used to have them on that. What was that crazy Christian Southern channel? They had all like, anyway, they had like kids. Immediately I was like, nope. I could see them in my head. I was like, oh God.
So then she notices her mother's purse on the counter. That definitely should have been in the car if her mother was driving in the accident. So the story was that her dad was having some kind of medical emergency and that her mom was driving them to the hospital when they got T-boned in the road. And that's how they died. That's the story right now. So her dad didn't have his cane. Her mom didn't have her purse. Both of those should have been in the car with them. As she walks through the house, she notices other things like the string on the attic door was gone and it had been boarded up. And the AC vent cover was off the wall in the hallway.
Yep.
There was just a bunch of things wrong in the house. She makes her way through the rest of the house, going to her old bedroom. Just as she opens the bedroom door, the living room TV turns back on. Chapter 4. She goes back to the living room, turns the TV back off, and if I remember correctly, she unplugs it this time.
I don't know if I can't remember if she unplugged it
this
time.
No, this time she walks away and the TV magically turns back on again, and that's when she unplugs it.
I mean, listen, I would be too. I'd be like screaming at Alexa and like all kinds of stuff.
And then that's when she decides to put the Louise and Mark dolls in the garage. Just then, a red truck pulls up to the house. The man introduces himself and his two other people with him as clutter experts for hoarding situations. He says that Mark had hired him, and Mark told them to see Louise for payment. Louise is like, oh, this is just like Mark, putting everything off on me to take care of, and I don't even want declutterers. Like, they just died. I want to go through the house and see what's here.
I do like the idea of this service, though, because I know sometimes people are, like, in a pickle or, you know, in a situation where they, like, don't want anything or can't take anything, or maybe the house has become a hoarding nest. So the fact that there are services like that out there, because I looked it up, they really exist. It wasn't just for this book. I actually was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, his name is Roland a Gutter, and we'll see him throughout the book.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I understand that what you've got here is a classic hoarder type situation, but don't panic. We've seen worse, believe me. What we do is we start at one end of the dwelling and move forward like a big broom, pushing everything out the front door right into the truck. End of the day, you'll see our taillights disappear, and you won't believe it ever looked like a dump. And Louise is like, this is my parents' house. It's not a dump.
Yeah, I was a little frustrated with him right there, like, because I think he didn't and maybe wasn't entirely explained, like, the full details. So he's like, don't worry, I'm used to being able to help with hoarding. And she's like, are you kidding me? My parents just died. This is not, like, if somebody had said that to me, I'd been like, are you kidding me? This is my dad's stuff. Like, this is not what?
Yeah.
Like, you need a minute.
Just at that moment, that's when Mark pulls up, and he pulls up looking like a disheveled mess. And Louise is absolutely embarrassed that he would even show up looking like that to people that he's hired.
Mm-hmm.
Louise and Mark start arguing over literally everything from top to bottom. There's no hello, hi, how are you, stuff like that. They immediately start arguing. This makes Roland and his crew very uncomfortable. And in the middle of arguing about everything with the decluttering, Mark just says that he's already arranged to scatter their ashes on a beach, even though Louise claims that isn't what they wanted. So Mark is trying to, like, take the reins a little bit, and Louise is like, no, I'm going to handle this the way they would want it to be handled. You don't know what you're talking about. They physically start fighting in the yard.
Which I definitely think that should be a conversation where you decide together, but
yes.
Okay. And honestly, most of the time most people put into their will what they want done. Like, my dad had very clear instructions of what he wanted done. Like,
but see, remember, we'll get to this, Mark hadn't read the will.
Oh, that's right. He had not. He just
just making decisions.
He just jumped the gun and said, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. So like I said, they physically fight. Louise spits in his face. And that's when Roland is like, I'm out. I'm gone. I'm not getting in the middle of this.
Can you blame him? He's like, oh, God, I'm done. I don't get paid enough for this.
Louise takes the death certificates and any other important paperwork and leaves. Chapter 5, Louise goes to Aunt Honey's and tells the family what just happened. And Aunt Honey is like, we're not doing this. She calls Mark, and I wrote, gives him the what for.
Pretty much.
She doesn't give him a choice, saying, get your butt over here now, basically. So he's on his way over. There's a bunch of other family that's also at Aunt Honey's, just because, you know, when, especially in the South, when someone dies, everyone is always together. You don't get any alone time.
No, you do not.
So during the family discourse, we learn about Freddie, Louise's uncle, who died as a child, her mother's brother. It's more of just a sad story that death has kind of always been a current of the family, but it will come back into play later. Just after this story, Mark shows up, and if you go to page 51, I have page 51 of the hardback. I have Honey sets him straight. And I'll just read real quick. Aunt Honey cuts in. You talk too much. Now, I want to be real clear. You are not tossing your parents in the water. Mark raises his glasses. They all watch his throat work. When he lowered it, the fight seemed to have gone out of him. I'm not Louise. I'm not going to fight all y'all, he said. Your parents are going to have a service at Mount Pleasant Presbyterian the way your mother would have wanted. She's going to be buried at Sturs next to her brother and her parents. Then we'll have a reception back here. A big funeral is nice for everyone, Aunt Gail said. Except me, Mark said. I wanted to organize something special, call the FCP. Constance says, you had a chance and you blew it. You're going to put on a suit and come to the funeral and act normal.
This is such an accurate conversation if you've ever had to deal with something like this. Also, the church that I grew up in was called Mount Pleasant as well, but it was
it really?
Yes, it was Mount Pleasant General Baptist. So I was like, oh Lordy, please, Jesus.
Well, and during all of this, which Louise can tell that the family is kind of ganging up on Mark, which he rightly deserves, but Louise is like, let's calm down a little. So
now
Louise
that she's calmed down, she's like, okay, wait a second.
Yeah. She talks to everyone and she allows Mark to plan the service at the church.
It's like compromise here. Again, it goes back to compromise. Let's have it at the church like everybody would want, but you can plan it. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So chapter 6, Louise leaves Aunt Honey's and goes back to her parents' house again. As she pulls up, she sees a blue glow. The TV is back on.
As Caden, in the words of my child, I am yeeting that TV out the door.
She breaks into the house and grabs a hammer for protection from whatever intruder that she believes is in there. However, there's no intruder. It's just Pupkin sitting on the couch. It was her mom's favorite puppet.
That name is so weird. I'm sorry.
She had him as a little girl, and her mom loved it more than anything in the world. But how did it get on the couch? Louise decides Mark put it there to mess with her. She decides to leave the TV on, but she always hated Pupkin. She scooped him up in a plastic bag and threw him away in the garbage. Chapter 7. Mark has decided it's not a funeral, it's a funeral.
Oh, this cracked me up.
The FUN in funeral is capitalized.
Mm-hmm.
And it's attended by loads of puppeteers, all dressed quite oddly. It was a very interesting service. Various puppeteers from her mom's time working with puppets, they just come and pay their respects, and they have what you think a lot of puppeteers would say at a funeral. That's what happens here.
Honestly, I didn't find this too weird. I mean, I understand the concept of this being extremely weird, but as a cosplayer, I don't find this entirely weird. But I can imagine everybody else there was like, what in the hell is going on?
It's a good comedic relief. I won't go into too much of it just because we've got so much to cover. Mm-hmm. But this chapter is a good comedic relief.
It is. I liked it a lot.
They go back to Aunt Honey's for the reception, and Mark kept pestering Brody, who is their cousin Constance's husband. He's an estate lawyer, and Mark basically wants the wills read ASAP.
Which I was thinking to myself, time and a place. Like, I didn't think that was the time or the place.
So, a little bit of backstory. A few years ago, Louise's dad wanted his will written up. And he had gone to Louise and was like, basically, I'm going to leave everything to you because I trust you. You're responsible. You'll take care of everything. So I expect you to take care of Mark. So Louise knew what to expect from the will reading. Or so she thought. Chapter 8. They go in the old office at Aunt Honey's to hash it out. Since their mom was technically the last to die, they've gotten word from the coroner that she was the last to die, that actually her will is the one that will be followed and not her dad's.
That was odd to me because typically they go and people would if they have separate ones, they would find a way to, I don't know. It's usually, I've never seen it done that way before. That was odd, but okay.
Well, and since they left, since they're going by her mother's will, her mother actually left everything to Mark instead of Louise. We get a little bit of backstory also in this chapter that we know that the parents played favorites. Louise was her dad's favorite. Mark was her mom's favorite. We don't know exactly why or how those relationships happened, but this is from Louise's point of view. But we know that those are the favorites, and that's how things are turning out now. After the end of chapter 8, we get to the next stage of grief, anger. Chapter 9, Brody gives Louise a letter from her mom. As she is packing up the hotel room to go back to San Francisco, she opens it and reads it. I'll read it real quick because it's not too long. Louise, I asked Brody to give you this letter in case certain situations arose, and if you're reading this, they have. I am so proud of the life you have built, and I am so proud of the mother you have become. You have so much, and you have earned it through your own hard work. Mark has so little compared to what you have achieved. I made the decision I did because I know you will be able to take care of yourself and Poppy no matter what happens, but Mark has no one. You have so much, but he has so little. I am also sure that if things are tight with you, all you would ever need to do is ask, and he would simply share what he has. After all, he is your brother, and he loves you, and he looks up to you no matter how he acts. I know you will not be bitter over my doing the hard but necessary thing. Please look after your little brother. I love you always, Mom. Louise then has a flashback of her childhood. Her mom and Pumpkin telling her bedtime stories. Over the years, once Mark is born, Mark eventually joins into those bedtime stories. But in those flashbacks, we also see Louise has resentment toward her mother for how she's always treated Mark. Mark got everything, and somehow her mom thought that was the right thing to do. There's no split. There's no 50-50. Just everything went to Mark.
You cannot do that. That is not how parenting should ever go.
Well, and we get some flashbacks. Like Louise, when she joined Brownies, she did everything she could. She earned every badge that was available. She only stopped Brownies because she aged out of it. Mm-hmm. Mark joined Boy Scouts, but he never earned a single badge. They gave him the Tenderfoot badge out of pity. Hold on one second. Sorry, I had to cough.
Okay.
Mark's high school, he was heavily involved in theater. He liked to put on shows. He was very all attention on me type person. So all throughout high school and into college, he was heavily involved in theater, and he had talent, and he was actually a good looking guy. So she felt like she was more kind of I won't say homely looking, but just not as good looking as Mark. So that's another thing that she feels like Mark was always given things just because he was good looking and got everyone's attention. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing anything here because the flashbacks in this book are very interwoven with the actual storytelling, which I appreciate, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything.
It's done. I thought it was done well, though. It's not too jarring or anything like that. The way it's just like thrown in, you know.
We learned that Louise actually graduated high school a year early, and she paid her own way through college along with the scholarships that she earned. And Mark threw a lot of fits because he couldn't save money for college, so their parents paid for his college. However, he dropped out after his first year, and he never finished. And Louise finishes reading the rest of her mom's will, and it turns out she did leave Louise one thing, her art collection. Which Louise uses to her advantage. She says, "Art, you say? Anything can be art." So, chapter 10. Roland shows up the next morning ready to clear the house, but Louise is there waiting for him. She's literally sitting on the front porch with a coffee in her hand, just waiting. When Roland shows up, Louise apologizes, says, "I'm sorry. There has been a mistake. Your services are not needed today." Mark shows up absolutely furious. He explains that in the will, she had been left the art collection, and Mark slowly makes the connection in his brain of what that means. And he calls Brody and was like, there's got to be something you can do. Brody's like, nah.
That's what she left her. You get everything else. Like, come on now.
And Mark knows that means the house cannot be sold anytime soon because Louise is going to take her time and go through absolutely everything, basically taking her revenge out on Mark. So she starts to go through the house and assess things. The first thing she decides to get rid of is a taxidermy squirrel reenactment of the birth of Christ.
Oh God, I was rolling. It reminds me of, I don't know if any of you guys know who Jenny Lawson is or have ever read any of her books. She likes taxidermy and she's talked about it in a few of her books. And I was dying. I was like, what in the Jenny Lawson is happening right now?
Well, and this chapter also shows just, again, how much Mark and Louise don't get along. Mm-hmm. Louise says, I just want to respect Mom's wishes. Mark says, you hated Mom. I didn't hate Mom. You always made fun of her art. I never made fun of her art. I work in design because of her. You glued googly eyes to the toilet and said it was her masterpiece. You even put a little museum play card next to it. I was 13, Mark. So, like, Mark knows that she's, like, dragging this out for absolutely no reason other than to mess with him.
Right.
So she takes Squirrel Mary and Squirrel Joseph, praying over Squirrel Baby Jesus. She like basically bags them up, and yeah, I'm getting to it. She made herself grab it by the sides. She calls it the Squirrel Holy Family, wobbling so much that for one horrible second she thought they'd snap off and she'd have to touch their bodies to pick them up. She marches through the kitchen and out to the garage. She goes to open the garbage can and she stops. Pumpkin is not where she left him in the garbage. Mark startles her in the garage. But her internal monologue is, Pumpkin isn't here. He's escaped. He will be so angry. She drops the squirrel nativity into the can and slams the lid shut. She does notice that the bag that she had put Pumpkin in was torn open from the inside.
That's so creepy.
She once again blames Mark and thinks that he's trying to play a trick on her.
I mean, in your adult brain, because that's what it is, right? Because children do think differently than adults. Like, what other rational explanation are you supposed to have at that moment? Like, honestly.
Yep. So, chapter 11. Louise finally gets up enough courage to go in her parents' bedroom, and she ends up falling asleep on their bed. She's awakened by a noise, and she sees a sock on the bed. Except the sock is moving. And it isn't a sock. It's a squirrel. She immediately recognizes it as one of the squirrels from the nativity scene. How in the world is it alive? She's just laying there very, very still, trying not to attract its attention. She doesn't want it to know that she's awake.
Well, in that moment, you're like, am I awake?
Yeah. But in that moment, the squirrel attacks. It starts going for her face, and it eventually goes down her shirt, clawing her all the way down. She grabs a tennis racket and basically like whacks herself and gets it out of her shirt, and she makes a beeline for the bathroom that's just off the bedroom. She quickly closes the door. Another squirrel tries to come under the door, but she crushes its head with her foot, and that's when she pukes.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. She waits in the bathroom for a few minutes to see if anything else is going to attack her. She finally gets up enough courage to exit the bathroom. The squirrels are gone with no sign of a fight except for the broken racket.
You have to admit, this sounds like some jacked up Miranda Bianca dreams.
It does.
For those of you that don't know, Bianca and I have some really messed up dreams. We enjoy telling each other about them. And I won't tell the whole world about the one the other night, but I had one. A lot of times they also involve each other. Not in a weird way, but like in a, like, we're in the dream together. Like something is happening. They're funny. They're fun.
Yeah.
They're
She goes to the garage and she sees the squirrel nativity scene in the trash where she left it. She's going crazy. She tells Mark that he can do whatever he wants with the house. She's done. She's out. Chapter 12, that night she FaceTimes Ian and Poppy, letting them know that she'll be back home tomorrow. She's looking at plane tickets now. Mark interrupts the FaceTime by coming to her hotel and forcing her to go outside. Mark is on the phone with Mercy, their cousin, who is also a realtor. She convinced Mark to split the house 50-50 with Louise because it's the right thing to do. She's like absolutely thrilled with this because the money that they'll get from the sale of that house will go toward Poppy's education. But now she has to call Ian and Poppy back and say, oops, my bad. I have to stay another week now to get everything in order. That phone call does not go well. While Louise has been gone, Ian tells Louise that Poppy has started wetting the bed again, which is something that they had already worked their way out of, and that she has started sucking her thumb again.
Which is usually a sign of some sort of trauma.
Yep.
Usually. Not always. Sometimes it's just basic anxiety or, people do revert. But that, to me, I was like, oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah. Chapter 13. The next morning, Mark and Louise go to the house. As they enter, Louise sees the Mark and Louise dolls once again sitting on the couch. She remembers specifically leaving in the garage, but once again, she's like, dang it, Mark is just messing with me again. He knows I don't like these dolls. She decides to just ignore it and not even bring it up because she doesn't want to start a fight. They just want to start bagging up the dolls and getting them out of the house. The plan is for Mark to take everything home and sort through the stuff later if he chooses to sell it or keep it. Chapter 14. Mercy arrives and begins her walkthrough. Mercy is the cousin/realtor. Louise notices that the blanket Mark had put over the Mark and Louise dolls is moved and the dolls are missing. Throughout the walkthrough, noises are happening in the attic. Louise thinks that it's just the squirrels, real squirrels this time, that have gotten in the attic, and that's also why the attic door, the string was missing and had just been boarded up. She thinks that it's just overrun with squirrels or raccoons or something. It's creeping Louise out, but Mercy is like, yeah, it's just squirrels. It's fine. They open the parents' bedroom door, and there in the corner are the Mark and Louise dolls.
Nope.
Louise is horrified, and so is Mercy, but for different reasons. Next, weird noises start coming from the bathroom vanity. Mercy and Louise exit the house, and they meet Mark in the backyard. Mercy makes a list of things to get fixed on the house, and she just casually mentions that the house is haunted and they need to take care of it, just like it's a regular old fixer-upper.
Yeah, the way she says it is just so casually. I wish I had left the quote pulled up, but it was like...
It's on page 150. Here we go. Okay. Mark says, I told Louise to leave the art up. Bare walls make rooms look smaller. Mercy ticked off the points on her fingers. The weird noises in the attic, whatever was in the bathroom vanity, you freaked out way too much over those dolls, and the place has some seriously weird vibes. I told you we meant to get more done before you got here, Louise said. I'll just come right out and say it, Mercy told them. Strange noises, bad vibes, your mom and dad recently passed. Your house is haunted, and I'm not selling it till you deal with that. Louise says, that's crazy. And it did feel crazy. Really crazy. But Louise thinks to herself, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not making this stuff up. Like, this is actually happening.
Somebody else witnessed it, basically. Like, I'm not...
Mercy says, you're upset. I get it. No one likes bad news. But my business is houses, and half of selling a house is psychological. Can't you guys feel how off this place is? Mark and Louise at the same time both say yes and no. I'd be a fool to ignore my gut. It's no big deal. I've handled 2 problematic properties before. And she's just acting like it's just a normal everyday thing. Yeah.
No big deal. No big deal. Nothing to see here. Let's just get exorcism. Be done. Come on.
And Mercy is like, this can't be a total surprise. Your family has always been weird. And Louise says, why does everyone keep saying that?
Well, Exhibit A.
Exhibit A, all the dolls and puppets in your house.
Exhibit B, the squirrels. Exhibit C, your parents' funeral? I don't think I need to go any further, but I could.
Yeah. So, chapter 15, Mark is basically like freaking out just over everything. He doesn't know where to start or how to handle anything.
Which I get that. Totally get that.
And Louise sits him down and was like, calm down. We're going to have pizza Chinese. And pizza Chinese is something that the four of them, the two of them and their parents used to do when they were kids. They would order pizza and order Chinese food and basically just veg out as a family.
I was here for that. I was like, yeah.
Mark is on one of his weird vibes. And as they're sitting down to eat, he welcomes the spirits of their parents. He thinks that the house is haunted by their parents and it's not anything else. Just as he's welcoming their spirits, they hear a thumping in the attic. They both kind of ignore the thumping, and Louise texts Ian to see if Poppy is good for a call, but Ian says no and that Poppy has wet the bed again. Once again, Louise and Mark start fighting, and Mark accuses Louise of trying to kill him when they were kids. Louise is like, no, I would never try to kill you. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is just a bad dream you've had. But we also get internal monologue from Louise. Louise didn't do that. Pupkin did that.
Pumpkin did it.
That stupid puppet.
God, he's so weird.
Chapter 17. We finally get Pupkin's backstory. A flashback. Pupkin has been the leader of Louise's stuffed animals posse. She took Pupkin everywhere. Pupkin had his own thoughts, but of course Louise interpreted them for everyone else. One day, those thoughts turned bad. Mark, as a baby, was finally allowed to eat at the table with everyone else. This made Pupkin angry. During the night, all of her other stuffed animals were face down on the floor. Pupkin had pushed them. The next night, she found Dumbo beheaded, with Pupkin sitting where Dumbo had been. As punishment, she put Pupkin in the closet and put rubber bands on the doors to keep them closed. But during the night, the doors started rattling. Then, fast as lightning, he was on the bed biting Louise. He said if she didn't obey him, he would hurt her. So she started obeying. Pupkin made her very slowly start bullying Mark. A few weeks later at Christmas, they go to their neighbor's house. It's the Calvins. Mr. Calvin had purposely left the sprinklers on so that the backyard would become a dreamland for winterland.
Which I was thinking, what the heck is wrong with you?
He tells Louise and Mark to go have fun in the winter wonderland. There was a pond out in the back that hadn't completely frozen over in the middle. Pumpkin wanted to be an ice skater, so Louise became an ice skater. Mark wanted to follow Louise. Louise got off the ice to coach him with Pumpkin's instructions. Mark goes to the middle, and he plunges straight down. Pumpkin then said he was cold, so Louise made her way back inside. She sat by the fire warming up, and Mrs. Calvin asked if she wanted hot cocoa. Louise said yes and asked for a cup for Pupkin too. And then that's when everyone noticed that Mark wasn't there. Mr. Calvin and their dad go outside and come back with a very, very blue Mark. Her parents take Mark to the hospital while Aunt Honey takes Louise back home. A few days later, they brought Mark home, but he had to stay in his room until he got better. Louise went to see him one time, and then she started to resent Pumpkin. Pumpkin began to get angry again. She went to the garage, got a trowel, and went to the backyard and dug a hole. Then she grabbed Pumpkin and threw him in. He cried out as she buried him, begging her to stop, but she continued. When she finished, she went back inside, feeling much better. and none of her other stuffed animals ever talked to her again.
That just... I didn't know how to feel after I read that part. I was like...
Well, and to me, that also kind of explains Mark's behavior. We all know that if the human brain goes without oxygen for a certain amount of time, like there's definitely damage done.
Yeah.
So I think that explains some of Mark's behaviors and quirks, if you will.
I agree with that. And I also think, because I think he's supposed to be like 3 years old?
Yeah, at the time.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, you don't remember things from them. But sometimes, yes, you do. And if also in his brain, like besides the damage, even if it was small amounts, he subconsciously is now scared of his sister because he knows that she just walked away and left him there. Like, what the crap? You know, like, yeah.
And Louise has this is not the first time Mark has accused her of trying to kill him. And this is just another one of their fights. Louise says, I wasn't even there. You're remembering it wrong. And Mark says, well, how should I remember it? Louise says, we played in their backyard with the ice from the sprinklers. You wandered away to the pond and fell in. I didn't even know where you were. And Mark is very definite. He says, that's not what happened. Oh, he was actually 2. Louise says, you were 2. I didn't even know till you remembered it. Mark said, you never asked. It'd be more convenient if I didn't. No one ever talked about it because it was easier for all of you if it just never happened.
Which this was a point that I actually started to feel bad for Mark. Like before, I did think like, oh my God, what is your problem? Like you're so horrible. Like this is your sister. And then it was this point that I was like, this goes to show you that like it's a little unreliable. This is where unreliable narrator starts to come in. It's not the only part, and it does have to do with the dolls later as well. But this is where you start kind of getting that, because up to this point, like we have kind of like felt for Louise and thought that he was just like, how rude of him to like take, to want all their parents' money, and how, he didn't call her for 2 days when they died, and just like all these things. And then you get this story and you're like, oh,
yeah.
And then you stop and think, well, wait, which one of them is telling the truth? Did he wander off from her, or did she lead him there? Like you don't know at this point.
Yeah. And Mark says, I remember everything being so heavy. I remember the water sucking me down. I remember being so cold my skin burned. I've never been that cold again in my life. I remember opening my mouth to breathe, and the pond water tasted like copper. I remember a flash of gray sky and seeing the edge of the ice and seeing you watch me drown, and then you turned around and walked away. That's my first memory. You walking away from me while I drowned.
See? Yep.
Louise says, no, that's not how it was. Mark says, you didn't think I remembered. You and Mom and Dad thought that if you never talked about it, this would go away, but I remember. And they kind of argue back and forth about it for a while. Louise keeps insisting that he's misremembering. Eventually, Mark storms off and goes off to use the restroom, but then he screams. Louise runs in and sees the Mark and Louise dolls in the bathroom, and the Louise doll has smeared lipstick in a tube on its hands. On the mirror is written, Mark, come home. Mark blames Louise blames Mark, and then Mark blames the ghosts. He goes to leave and then tries to convince Louise that she also needs to leave. She refuses because there is no such thing as ghosts. Mark is refusing to stay, so Louise tells him to bring her green tea in the morning. She's staying home. Yeah, this is an eventful night. Just pre-warning everybody.
Shit's about to get wild.
Chapter 19. Louise cleans the kitchen and has another flashback. She has been sitting at the dining room table doing homework when she goes to her bedroom for something. This is after everything has transpired. As she has passed her parents' bedroom, she notices something on their bed. Pumpkin. But she buried him in the backyard. How is he on the bed? Louise finishes cleaning the kitchen, gets out of that memory. She turns off the lights, closes the bedroom door, slides out of her jeans, and goes to bed. That night, Louise dreams of Poppy. She is playing with a toy on the floor. The toy is dirty and smelly, and it has maggots crawling on it.
Yeah.
That toy is Pumpkin. Louise wakes herself up screaming, and she's super frightened. She's disoriented, but then she remembers she's in her childhood bedroom, and she relaxes a little. But the door is wide open. If you remember, I said one of her things was she closed the bedroom door.
Mm-hmm.
She makes a plan to reach for her jeans and her phone that are both on the floor. Just as she leans her arm out of the bed, something clamps on super tight. She kind of like throws her arm like you do when you feel something on your arm, and whatever it was goes flying across the room. Her eyes adjust. It's Pumpkin, and he is mad. She leans over him and runs down the hallway, but she runs into something hitting her shins. She instantly goes down with pain, which I can empathize. Anything hitting my shins would take me down.
Or my big toe. Well, it's baby toe. You know, like that vicinity when you're like half asleep trying to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's taking me down.
Pumpkin had set a trap. He had put all of the kitchen chairs in the hallway to trap her. He launches himself at her, pinning her down. He stabs her in the eye with a sewing needle.
Listen, this is where I lost my shit. I don't do okay, so in horror books, movies, any of that, you can cut their head off, chop off fingers, limbs, decapitate. I already said that. Anyway, what you do not do mess with the teeth and the eyeballs. Miranda is out at that point. So when he said this, I was like,
and while they are fighting, Louise can hear Pumpkin's voice in her head. He says, You left me behind. You tried to forget about me. You left me in the dark. And they have a lot of mental conversations throughout the book. It's not necessarily verbal. Like I said before, Pumpkin talks to her and she interprets it for everyone else.
Is it pumpkin or pupkin?
Pupkin. Pupkin.
Okay, that's what I thought. You said you getting tongue twisted. You said pumpkin a few times. I was like, I thought the stupid same thing was pumpkin.
It's Pupkin.
Pupkin, like a doggy, like pup.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so. Just making sure.
So, like, while they're physically fighting, like I said, he stabs her in the eye. She launches him across the room, pulls the needle out of her eyeball, and then runs back to the bedroom. She, jerry rigs the door, but he makes his way back inside and they fight some more. Suddenly, a big shadow pulls Pumpkin off Louise and a gunshot rings out. Mark is there. Chapter 20. Mark and Louise leave in Mark's truck. They get a couple of miles down the road when Louise is like, pull over, and she promptly pukes.
As I would as well.
She is very concerned about her eye, but he checks her eye and it's fine. The needle basically didn't do any damage. It's just a little red and irritated. She insists that she needs to go to the ER, but Mark knows exactly what she needs. Welcome to Waffle House.
Listen, Waffle House can cure a lot. I'm just going to say that right now.
I am Waffle House's #1 hater. I do Waffle House. I want to go on record.
What? Okay, we have been friends for how many years? And how did I know you? What?
Every time I eat Waffle House, I get sick.
That's the point. You're supposed to get the bubble guts. If you go to Waffle House and you don't get bubble guts, then did you even eat Waffle House?
So I refuse to go to Waffle House. I have been to Waffle House one time in the past probably 15 years. And that one time was for shout out to Brittany. The last time she came to visit this summer, she was like, Bianca, please, let's go to Waffle House, because they don't have Waffle House in Utah. So I was like, fine. And I regretted it the rest of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, Kaden and I used to go. So when Jerry started working overseas, Kaden and I would go every other Sunday to Waffle House because my kid, who only eats like 5 things, will eat Waffle House.
Well, anyways.
Anyway, for anyone wondering, if you like Waffle House, because people that like Waffle House ask each other, it's called the All-Star Breakfast with 2 eggs scrambled, scattered, smothered, covered, and capped. Thank you. And I've lived in Europe for 4 years, and I still know my Waffle House order to a T.
So anyway. The Waffle House waitress comes to their table. Remember, Louise had left her jeans back there with Pupkin. So Mark had found some sweatpants and flip-flops in his truck. They were way too big for her. Her eye is all red. You can tell they've both been in a fight. And the Waffle House.
No shock to this Waffle House waitress.
This is like 2 a.m. in the morning.
This is normal to her. She's like, seen it before. All right, next.
She's just like, y'all okay? And Mark is like, never better, Louise. Louise says, I'm blind. And the waitress is like, do y'all know what you want?
Yes.
And Mark is like, she'll have an American cheese omelet, whole wheat toast, scattered, smothered, covered. Mark is like, I'll have steak and eggs, make that medium rare.
Yes.
Any coffee? 2 coffees.
The worst coffee you will ever drink in your life, but you will ask for it.
Louise is like, is my eyeball still there? Mark says, stop it. The waitress says nothing, just heads away. Louise is like,
me though. Like, is my eye still there?
Louise says, I need a doctor. Would you quit it?
God, this is literally like one of my favorite parts of the book.
Louise says, I'm not fine. Mark is holding up fingers and says, what do you see? But Louise has her eye closed so nothing leaks out. Open your eye and tell me what you see. She opens it and she can like see everything. It's mostly fine. And Mark says, right now, what you need for once in your life is to listen to me. Louise is trying to pay attention, but her brains are scattered, smothered, and covered.
I would agree. Mine would be too. Listen.
Louise starts to giggle. She can't help it. This place is a nice, clean restaurant. People are acting normal. Mark is acting normal, but a puppet tried to kill her, and she wasn't normal anymore.
Exactly. Amen, sister.
Louise, the way you're laughing is actually really, really scary.
He hasn't met me.
At that moment, the waitress walks up and says, share the joke. I've been on since 5 and I could use a laugh. And Louise is like cackling, saying, none of this is real. The waitress sets down the creamer and was like, I hope not. Louise says, I don't want to be here. I want to be in the hospital. The waitress stops, looks at Mark, and is like going through various options. You can tell in her head, like, is he a pimp? Is he an abusive boyfriend? Is he a dealer?
Absolutely. She's absolutely seen it all before. And so she's like, oh God, which one am I dealing with tonight?
Yeah. And Marcus says, don't worry about her. Our parents just died. And you can see the waitress's face go, oh crap. She's like, I'm sorry. If you want a Methodist minister, they come in every morning around 4:30 and he'll pray with just about everyone.
In fairness, funny story, and this is another reason why I died at this part. I did, in fact, a month and a half after burying my father, cry in a Waffle House and pay. I'm not like tooting my own horn here. I cried in a Waffle House and paid for 3 Alabama State Troopers dinner because I decided I got hungry really late at night and I went to Waffle House with our babysitter. Because she was at the house and we were also hungry, and these cops came in and I ended up crying and paying for their dinner because one of them reminded me of my dad. Waffle House.
Valid.
Yeah. So crying in the Waffle House, it's a real thing. And look, somebody, the babysitter did. Peyton looked at the girl and she goes, I'm sorry, her dad just died. So listen, Grady Hendrix, stop writing about my life. I didn't have a puppet chasing me. Thank God.
So Mark is like urging Louise to drink some coffee and just He says, quote, "Stop being scary." She takes a sip. She stops laughing. And she like quietly looks at Mark and says, "I don't think I'm well. I think something is really wrong inside me. Something I may have inherited from Mom. So I need you to stay with me and keep me safe. And in the morning, we need to go to a doctor and I need to get tested for some things. I mean, my eye, but maybe gene testing for pharmacogenetic, I can't say this word, pharmacogenetic markers too."
Good job.
And talk to him about schizophrenia, bipolar depression. We should really make a list. Mark says, "This isn't about you having a mental illness. This is about us. This is about the way our family is. I think I figured out what's going on here." The waitress comes and puts down their order. Louise is like, "No, this is genetic. That means you need to get tested too."
It's her brain trying to rationalize what they're dealing with, because they're not only dealing with grief, which makes you a little irrational, right? But it's also like, you just got attacked by a puppet. Oh, yeah. And a few days ago, you got attacked by taxidermied squirrels. So this is the adult human brain, especially because she said she doesn't believe in ghosts, trying to rationalize, like, okay, no, maybe I'm schizophrenic, maybe I'm depressed, like, what could cause this? Because a lot of people that don't believe in ghosts, when they do have, if they do have some sort of like thing happen, that is usually when you hear from them the first thing, where they're like, I was crazy, I knew I was going crazy, or I, whatever. So it's very, I feel like this is a very normal, like, we're laughing because it is funny, but I think it's also like, he did a really good job of writing, like, this normal, like, trying to figure this out, right? In, like, modern science terms.
Yeah, rationalize it.
Yes. Thank you. The word just went.
So she's over here having a breakdown, and Mark is like, "What does it take to make someone in this family actually listen to me? Who stuck that needle in your eye? Did you do that to yourself? Who wrote on the mirror with the lipstick? Do you think I did it? Do you think I want to mess with you that badly?" And Louise is like, "I don't know what to think anymore." Mark says, "I do, which is why you need to listen to me. You're lucky I listened to my gut, and I decided I wasn't comfortable leaving you in that house alone. So I parked around the corner. You're lucky I don't sleep too good. You're lucky that I had my windows down, and you're lucky I believe in our Second Amendment right to bear arms, because I heard you screaming. I came in the house, and I didn't find you all by yourself trying to stick a needle in your own eye. I found you hiding in the closet while Pumpkin tried to tear the doors off. I saw him. You saw him. So now that everyone's safe, don't pretend you didn't see it too."
See, but that's like what you want at that moment, because you think you're crazy. So the fact that he's like, "Listen, I back you 100%," because before this, it's just been like arguing and almost like he didn't want to hear what she had to say, but he's not even batting an eyelash. He's like straightforward, like, "I believe you."
Yeah. And they kind of go back and forth a little bit. And Mark's basically says, because what happened tonight with Pumpkin really happened. And Mercy thinks that there's something wrong with our house. And I've got some news for you. You've spent a long time ignoring what goes on in this family, but it's not safe to do that anymore. Now here's what's going to happen. I'm going to get another cup of coffee. Then I'm going to tell you the real reason I dropped out of college. And you're finally going to learn the truth about Pumpkin. So this next part, we finally get from Mark's point of view. He says, "When I went to college, the first thing I did was join a radical puppet collective."
Which, I mean, makes sense. It makes sense. He said he was involved in theater. Him and his mom were very close. Like, she was major into puppets. Like, some people might be like, this is weird. I'm still not finding it weird, right? Like, okay, yeah. Like, yeah, the pumpkin thing and all that's weird. But his individual story so far, not weird at all. Like, okay.
Yeah. So our next section, we're entering the next stage of grief, bargaining. Chapter 21. Like I said, we're switching to Mark's point of view. He is recounting his time in college and how it was a huge letdown to him. He started skipping classes, and he eventually found this punk puppet troupe performing on the street. They're basically reenacting various war sequences and government things. They're trying to be like radical people, but with puppets.
They're woke.
Basically, yeah.
Sorry, I don't know another word. I know some people hate that word, but that's the word I think of.
And that's exactly what they're doing. Like, they're kind of like protesters, but with puppets, putting on demonstrations.
Which I thought was kind of cool because it's a twist on something, and it's not as like in your face. I feel like it's different.
Yeah, a little bit. He is so enthralled with this puppet troupe that he literally spends all day watching them because they stand on the street all day doing their thing. He eventually works up the courage to ask if he could work for them. He went to their house the next day and helped them make anti-war stuff. Keep in mind, this is supposed to be just after 9/11 happened. So for those of you old enough to remember, the collective feeling after 9/11 in America was...
It was kind of split. It was, yeah, you either were like for it, like, let's go.
Yeah.
Or you were like, no war, no peace. You were kind of like the people in the 70s, like, being like, we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be doing this. Why are we doing this? So it was very, I don't remember how old you were at 9/11. But like the person I was actively dating at the time got sent away, like to war. Yeah. So like, I remember how it was, and it was very like everybody blaming everybody. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yes. But they were making anti-war stuff, and he spent the next few months being a demonstrator and a street performer with them. I won't get into too many details with that. Chapter 20. Yeah. So chapter 22 is where it gets bad. Mark had avoided using the puppets while he was performing at all costs because of the work his mom had done. He wanted no part of the actual puppet show. He just wanted to be involved with something that he felt was right, basically. They eventually get him to open up about his history with puppets, and they tell him that his mom is wrong. Page 225. Then one night we were sitting on the back porch eating homemade black bread and aioli that Richard had made, and the conversation turned to why I didn't like puppets. I told them all about Mom's puppet ministry, and they started asking me about her shows, and I told them about A Stray in a Manger and The Selfish Giant.
Sorry.
And Clark, man, he opened my eyes. Clark said, "Your mom's puppets are watered-down copies of copies. They're off-brand Muppets. But real puppets in a church, and they'd burn it down. Puppets unleash anarchy. Punch in a Punch and Judy show beats his wife, kills his baby, and when they try to execute him, he tricks the hangman into hanging himself. Puppets are about violence. They don't do life lessons. They don't do love." And I said something like, "Yeah, my mom's shows are stupid because that's what you do when you want to impress people at college, right? You sell out your parents."
Yeah, absolutely.
Clark said, "Puppeteers respect their puppets. Your mom probably did too. Every puppeteer knows that when they wear a puppet, it's live, like a grenade with a pin pulled." Sadie's another part of the group. She says, "Show him Sticks." I didn't see Clark shake his head. He just took another bite of black bread. Richard says he should see Sticks. "What Sticks?" I asked. And then there's like a certain animosity in the air. But then he pulls out his left hand, clutched the wooden H of a marionette's control yoke and the pile of wood and string, and suddenly something that looked like a human figurine came to life. It had no mouth. It was a rough oblong with indentations for its eyes. Most marionettes are fussy and clattery. This one felt alive. He climbed to his feet, stood on the porch between us. Clark turned invisible. I no longer saw Sticks' strings. He didn't hang like a marionette with his feet barely skimming the ground. Sticks stood solidly on the porch, his center of gravity not in the strings but rooted in his belly. And Sticks kind of like inspects Mark. And he like walks across, leans over, and sniffs his jeans. Like, it's very, very creepy. And Mark remembers thinking very clearly he's getting used to my scent. He reaches out, his small wooden hand lays it on Mark's leg. It wasn't Clark manipulating the string to poke me with a piece of wood. Styx laid his hand on my leg. He very clearly hears Clark say, a puppet is a possession that possesses the possessor.
That's a mouthful.
Yes. Mark is very impressed with what he's doing, and he looks at Clark and says, can you teach me how to do that? Clark smiles and knows that he's asked the right question. So, eventually, Mark decides to drop his classes at college, but he doesn't tell his parents. He decides to work with the puppets full time. He asked his mom if he could have Pupkin for the work, and she is thrilled that Mark is finally taking interest in puppets. Hold on, let me clear my throat real quick.
Okay.
So, when he brings Pupkin out for the first time, the collective is freaked out because this puppet is freaky looking. He's like kind of got a clown face, but he has very sharp teeth. Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, he's like all dressed in yellow.
I think so. Something like that.
Let
me see if anybody's made a picture of him while you're talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. And like the rest of the group is very freaked out by Pupkin. Clark, the one that did the marionette, he is thrilled. He's like, this puppet's awesome. They eventually do a performance at a school for a bunch of kids. The school was like, it's just a cute little puppet show. It'll be fine. They didn't do their homework. They didn't know what kind of shows this puppet troupe puts on. And the puppet troupe is like, yeah, we're not going to let the government indoctrinate these kids. We're going to show them what war is really about and what happens when you get sent off to war and blah, 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 blah. So they put on their anti-war show. I'll read it real quick. They get to the meat of the pageant, a history of the war on terror as fabricated and engineered by the CIA and the American military-industrial complex.
I can't remember. Is this where they're at the school and they're doing it for like kids? And
yes.
Like which one of the troop thought that this was going to go over well? I don't know, but
those kids were fed a daily dose of imperialist American propaganda and everything from their Saturday morning cartoons to their sugar-coated breakfast cereal. So 40 minutes of counter-programming was the least we could do to liberate their minds.
Oh, dear sweet baby Jesus.
We thought the teachers would be grateful.
No.
Instead, they were very upset.
It sounds like they terrified these children, is what it sounds like.
At the climax of the show, Sadie played the Star-Spangled Banner, but it was slowed down to a funeral march.
Oh, God.
In the final scene, we look like grim beasts standing over a field of corpses, while the great grinning skull of death itself rises above us like a malevolent moon.
See, I know we're not supposed to laugh at this, but Grady does this thing where you're dying. You're both like cringe, like you're cringing, but you're also like laughing, and you're like, what in the world did I just read? You're like, well, I don't even know how to process this.
And just then, that's when the kids start to cry.
Oh, absolutely.
That the one kid that starts crying kind of sets off a chain reaction, and suddenly all the kids are sobbing. Through the eye holes of my mask, I could see teachers ushering the kids out the back door like the place was on fire. And the principal hisses at him, "Get off this stage right now." The school refuses to pay them, so they put all of this money and effort into making these props and everything for the show. They don't get reimbursed for any of it. They don't even get gas money.
Which I will say, this is not normally how this goes. Like, a school is not going to pick like a puppet program or anything like that they haven't vetted. So unless they just like got up there and started, like they told them it was something totally different or showed them something totally different, I was like, how does this even happen?
Yeah.
But it goes with the story. I'm here for it. I'm not mad at Grady. I'm just like, what?
So that night, Clark, who is wearing Pumpkin, sets the general on fire. The general is the puppet used in that show. It was their biggest puppet they'd ever made. Clark also made masks with Pumpkin's face for everyone to wear. They all become Pumpkin. Destruction and chaos ran rampant for weeks in the house. They would literally become Pumpkin while wearing the masks, and they never took them off. Because when they were Pumpkin, they lived in the something woods. It's kind of like Winnie the Pooh lives in whatever, the 100-acre woods.
Mm-hmm. They were in like an imaginary place. They were in a delusion.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Basically. I'm trying to remember what the forest is called, but I don't remember.
I'll try to look it up. Keep going.
And then Pumpkin also has this like word that he says. He says "caca-wee-wee," and that's like his like victory cry whenever anything good happens.
Gosh,
so yeah, no, you're fine.
No, I like when that happened. When he did the first caca-wee-wee, I was like, what? Because it does make you think of like every generation has had some sort of show that they watched when they were kids, and there was like a puppet that would have like some sort of like saying. So I'm sure everyone can picture this, and I was like, I just kind of
it's the Tiki-Two woods.
Tiki-Two, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when they became Pumpkin, they entered Pumpkin's world, and they went to Tiki-Two woods and just had a bunch of fun, and they just exited their own bodies and didn't have to worry about anything. Mm-hmm. Destruction and chaos run rampant for weeks because they became Pumpkin, and as we have learned, he never really had good intentions for anybody. So he realized that the few moments when he wasn't wearing that mask, everything felt wrong. He would start to have flashbacks of what was actually happening when they were wearing the masks, and he decided that he had to try and stop it.
It kind of made me think of like the mask, like, which that's funny, but this is what is happening here is not funny.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the thought process I had, where it was like, if you remember, there's moments in the mask when Jim Carrey first puts on the mask, first time he takes it off, he's like having this moment of like, that didn't happen. Like, I made that up, right? Like, what? No. So that's what I kind of felt but like from a horror, like, I was like, if the mask went wrong, essentially, is what I was thinking.
And Clark is basically encouraging them to never take the mask off because he's saying this is how we're getting new material for new shows. And eventually Mark is the only one who ever does take off his mask for any length of time. He decides the only thing he can do is set fire to the house. All the masks were in the basement, but he didn't get anybody else out of that house. After all of this happens, he makes his way back to college in a haze. He's basically a shell of himself. His mom eventually comes to see him, and she can tell that something has gone on. She doesn't know exactly what. The next day, he withdraws from college, and as they're on the way home, she finally asks, "By the way, where's Pumpkin?" He lies and says that he left him at his troop partner's house and that his partner has agreed to mail him. But that wasn't good enough. She wants Pumpkin back in her possession.
Which is so like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he orders a cab and they go to the original house where he met the puppet collective. He knows nobody would be there because they all died in the fire along with the puppet. After a few minutes of waiting, however, Clark shows up, and this throws Mark for a loop. Mark asks for Pumpkin back because his mom is asking for him. Mm-hmm. Clark throws Pumpkin on the porch, and Mark leaves. All the way back home, his mom talks to Pumpkin the whole way, and his parents never mention anything about him dropping out. It's like the last 6 months of his life never even happened.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I already knew clearly Pumpkin was a problem. I keep doing it too. Pumpkin was a problem, but I got really bothered and kind of like skin crawl when she's like so adamant to go get this puppet, right? And then on the way home, she starts talking to it. And in my mind, I picture like when a parent has a really young child and they have them in the back seat and you're like trying to like keep them entertained or whatever. So you're like, did you have a good day? Like you're not doing baby talk, but you're doing like, I don't want to say dumbed down talk because kids aren't dumb, but you know what I'm trying to say? It's like a
special voice you use just for kids.
Yeah, it's like you're like calm voice. You're like mom voice, not the you're in trouble mom voice, but like the like, did you have a good day? Tell me about your day. What did you do? And like I'm picturing this, and in my head I also pictured Pumpkin sitting in like this booster seat. Like I know it doesn't say anything like that, but like I'm picturing like Pumpkin propped up there with this stupid grin on his face, sitting in a booster seat, and I was like, this is beyond insane. Like. What the heck? Why is he not looking at his mother? Because he's just had the realization like that how bad this is. Why is he not stopping and being like, oh my God, like Pumpkin has an effect on her too. Like, I don't know why that didn't affect or why that didn't like come to him other than the fact of like what he just went through is pretty traumatic, but like, it literally made my skin crawl. And again, I'm not scared of puppets, dolls, anything, but like whatever Grady does when he's describing this, I was like, my neck just popped when I did that. But yeah, it was very,
Yeah. Chapter 23, we are back to Louise's point of view now. In telling Louise all of this, Mark makes her realize that Pumpkin was real and alive. Louise was not crazy. And Mark makes the connection that their entire lives have been ruled by this puppet.
Mm-hmm.
And what if the puppet is actually what happened to their parents? We go through this whole process of, because their dad had been sick for a while, and their mom had to give more attention to their dad than to Pumpkin. So what if the puppet got jealous? Because their mom didn't have the same amount of attention that she was able to give like normal.
Which makes sense because it seems like what he does with everybody, like when he latched on to her and then later he latched on to, Mark, every time he latches onto someone, it's like, if you're not giving me the attention I think I deserve, I'm going to burn it all down.
Yep. So chapter 24, they make a plan to destroy every puppet and doll in that house. They know that Mark shot Pumpkin, but they plan to set him ablaze anyway, just to make sure. So they make their way through the house to her bedroom, but there's no sign of him. His stuffing is on the floor, and a bit of fabric leads to the vent. Then they hear movement in the attic. So Mark starts to unboard the nailed door, and they make their way up to the attic. When they get up there, they see a whole bedroom set up for Pumpkin, who is neatly tucked into bed. Their mom had made him his own room up there. They kind of start to plan their attack, basically. And just as Mark reaches the bedroom, he stops cold turkey. Louise can tell that Pumpkin is starting to talk to him, trying to convince him to put him on. He wants to hurt Louise, and he wants to use Spider. So Spider is an imaginary dog that Mark had when he was a child because they weren't allowed to have a real dog. But this dog has certain modifications.
As one imaginary friend does.
He has a lot of legs, just like a spider.
Did you have an imaginary friend?
No, I had an imaginary life.
Oh, okay. Yes, we all had one of those. But did you have like a specific one imaginary friend, like hardcore?
No.
I did.
Who was yours?
Her name was Josephine, and she was a penguin.
Oh, okay.
What's really creepy is, so I came up with Josephine as soon as I could talk. So about 2. And then my grandmother and I are out shopping one day, as one does with their grandma. And there's a book on the shelf that I swear to God, I was 2, so if I'd seen it before, I don't know how I remember this. And it was called Josephine Don't Give Up. And it was about a penguin that really wanted to be a ballerina named Josephine.
Okay.
She was my imaginary friend. So then it became my identity and everybody bought me penguins, which actually I love penguins. So, but yeah, I also made imaginary lives, but mainly it was just me and Josephine doing like real life stuff all the time.
Oh, okay. No, I never did that. But yeah, so Spider, he comes to life basically. Over the years, like we kind of have a flashback of us getting the backstory of Spider. Mm-hmm. And we learned that over the years, Mark mentioned Spider less and less. He was eventually forgotten by everyone except Pumpkin.
Well, that's how imaginary friends work. So that one, I was like, okay. No big deal.
So chapter 25, Spider attacks Louise. She eventually makes her way back down the attic hatch and she falls down head first. Mark is still up there arguing with Pumpkin, refusing to put him on. Spider pins her down in the hallway, clamping onto her ankle. She realizes that she's losing this fight. And just as she's about to give up, Spider runs. He tears his way through the house and blasts into the garage. She looks up to see Mark standing in the hallway, Pumpkin on his arm. Pumpkin waves.
Yeah.
Louise pleads with Mark to stop, but Pumpkin answers, Mark gone, Pumpkin now.
Oh, yes, that's actually for like promotion. Apparently they made it when I was trying to find what Pumpkin looked like. Pumpkin. Oh my God, this is hard.
It's hard to say.
So hard. Well, because your mouth automatically wants to go pumpkin. That's a word. Okay, so every time this stupid thing, I was trying to Google what he looked like, and I did find one. I'll send to you. I'll post it on our TikTok too. But there's like this meme that people have made like repetitively over and over, and it just says it's got like this like creepy background, and then it's like Pumpkin gone or like Mark gone, Pumpkin here, and I was like, listen, I made a lot of like cringy noises in this book, and I listen. I'll go ahead and say yes, you said puppets and dolls, but you didn't say murderous puppets and dolls. You should have said Chucky, Miranda. Chucky.
So Pumpkin is elated to be free, and he's mad that everyone had abandoned him. Mark, actually Pumpkin, grabs the hammer that was in the hallway and uses it to free the attic door and then attacks Louise.
This broke my heart, though. Like, this is when I was like,
yeah.
Wow.
And then Pumpkin then proceeds to sing his special song. Pumpkin here, everybody laugh, everybody cheer. No more bath time, no more rules, no more teachers, no more schools. It's time to sing and dance all day. Pumpkin's here to play and play and play and play.
And so I did, the first time I did this, I did it on an audiobook so that I could like do it at work. And the narrator for this just like nails it. And you're like, oh God.
So while Pumpkin is singing that little song, Mark attacks Louise with the hammer.
Which is a recurring theme. I just realized somebody falling out of an attic and a hammer being used is in the book that I just finished. We Used to Live Here.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So the hammer hit her in the head, leaving her jaw unable to work properly. So from now until basically the end of the book, whenever I say that Louise says something, just imagine it with the jaw not working properly, and it's all gobbledygook.
Mm-hmm.
So she tries to distract them by saying, Spider, good boy, and makes a run for it. She makes it to the kitchen, but then the hammer hits her in the butt, and then her legs, and then her back. She makes it to the garage, but the hammer was thrown and hit her in the kidney. She goes sprawling in the garage. She yells one last time for Mark's help, and that one last time actually gets through. Louise makes a beeline for the puppet, attempting to yank him off Mark's arm. Pupkin then attacks Louise, but Mark realizes how close they are to the saw he's been using.
No. Mm-mm.
Louise realizes she has no choice in order to save them both. The saw it was. Mark has an infinity tattoo on his arm, and she comes down right in the middle of the infinity tattoo.
How did you handle this part? Because I know you don't usually.
Yeah. I kind of just like skimmed it enough to make notes of what happened.
As someone that grew up with like equipment like that around, because I grew up on a farm and my grandfather was a woodworker, and I took like shop and things in high school. This made my stomach flip because I could like visibly see this happening, and I was like,
well, and the whole time Louise is like begging Pumpkin, "Don't make me do this. Don't make me do this."
Having to harm your sibling, like to save them.
Yeah. Well, and then at the same time, Mark is saying, do it, because he knows that that's the only way that it's going to get him free from the puppet. She makes a fast tourniquet with the cord from the saw, and then she calls 911.
Smart. She did the absolute correct thing.
So, chapter 27. They are at the hospital. She gives the story that her brother wasn't practicing safety with the saw, and that she had tripped and some shelves had fallen on her. And that was explaining what was wrong with her face, basically. Mark goes in for surgery. After... I don't remember this properly. My notes don't line up with what I remember.
Okay.
Because I remember him waking up being mad. Am I misremembering that?
I think he's like frustrated with the situation, but I don't remember him being mad at her.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I mean, I just reread this like 2 weeks ago, but I don't remember specifically that one little part. I don't remember him being mad at her.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm just misremembering it then. Anyways, at one point he tells her, go burn him, just like we had planned.
Mm-hmm.
So she leaves the hospital. She goes to set up the fire in the grill, and she found Pumpkin in the trash can. In her head, she hears the puppet start screaming. Please have mercy, never leave Pumpkin alone. It hurts. Where's Nancy? Help Pumpkin. Nancy is their mom's name.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like begging her to stop. She realizes she doesn't care. She can handle whatever happens now. She watches the puppet burn. She makes her way back to the house, and she goes room to room to check for anything else. The house truly feels empty. The house doesn't feel haunted anymore. We go to the next part where we start the depression.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 28. Oh, this is where he gets mad. So chapter 28, she goes back to the hospital, tells Mark that it's done, that he's really gone. And then Mark proceeds to blame her for everything, starting with, this is why I hired Roland. He didn't want to deal with it.
And in some ways, I get what he's saying. Like, I understand. Like, this is one of the times he's mad where I kind of get what he's saying. He's like, if we just let Roland. But then again, Pumpkin seems to return every time someone tries to get rid of him. So would it really matter? Like, if Roland had come in and taken him, like, would he have just popped back up? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. So the doctor shows up and says, hey, this is what you're going to have to do for recovery. It's going to be a long road ahead of you. Louise will have to stay. And I hated typing this, but this is what the doctor said. She will have to milk the wound for a few weeks until it heals up.
Yep.
What?
It's a real thing. You have to make sure
it's
not being gross, but you have to like just the way it was
described.
Yeah.
But he is released later that afternoon once he's stable. Mark basically does fall into a depression, and he is very, very angry. Louise tries to buy anything and everything for him to adjust to this new life, but all Mark wants to do is sleep. Louise tells Constance that selling the house will have to wait. Louise makes arrangements to go back home. When Louise gets back home, she's so happy, so relieved. Ian sees her face and freaks out and was like, what happened? But Louise is just like, no, I just want to see my daughter. I haven't seen my daughter in like 2 weeks. Poppy comes out of her room and she's like so elated to see her. But Poppy has a new toy.
Mm-hmm.
And Pumpkin waves using Poppy's arm.
I gasped. And I was like, I should have seen this coming.
I knew something was happening because
we knew he wasn't gone, right? Like, that was too easy.
Because we still have like another 150 pages to go.
Yeah, there's a lot left to go, and it's like, that seemed too easy.
Yeah. So chapter 29, Ian explains that his mom and Poppy had worked on it together, but that Poppy came up with the idea all on her own.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like an art project. Louise immediately goes and attempts to yank Pumpkin off her daughter's arm, but it's too late. He's already made himself at home there. Poppy literally like throws a tantrum. Ian intervenes and hauls Louise off Poppy. Louise was like so upset that she accidentally left bruises on Poppy's arm. Ian says they'll keep Poppy home for a few days until they heal so that no CPS will be involved. She convinces Ian that she's just jet lagged and dealing with a lot of trauma from losing her parents. Because Ian really doesn't want to get like the government involved with anything. So he's trying to be understanding.
No, because all it takes is one report, even if nothing actually bad did happen.
You stay on the radar, yeah.
Absolutely, you do, yes.
So after Ian finally leaves, Louise devises a plan to get rid of the puppet. She plans to put him in the blender. Louise makes her way to Poppy's room. Poppy is fast asleep, but Pumpkin is sitting up on the bed, legs dangling, waiting and watching.
Mm-hmm.
And Louise loses her nerve. Chapter 30. Louise is awakened by the fire alarm going off. She runs to the kitchen to see Poppy, really Pumpkin, making a mess, and the stove is ablaze. She turns everything off and yanks Pumpkin off of Poppy's arm, but it doesn't last long because Poppy bites her. This is very uncharacteristic of Poppy. She has never done anything like that before. Louise immediately drops the puppet. Poppy scoops him back up and runs for her room. Louise tries to follow, but Poppy is literally acting possessed, which she is. The only thing Louise can do is keep them both safe and just let Poppy scream it all out. A few hours later, Poppy falls asleep. Louise goes to check on her, and Pumpkin gives another little wave. Louise calls Ian with the concerns about the puppet, but he is of no help whatsoever. After she makes lunch, Louise makes the one phone call she doesn't want to make. She calls Mark. She tells him that Pumpkin is here. Mark says he will think of something and calls back. Or says he'll call back. Louise tries to stay awake, but at some point she dozes off. She wants to stay awake because she's afraid that she's going to die, basically.
Right.
She's awakened by noise in the kitchen. Pumpkin had a knife and was raking it down Poppy's arm. It wasn't like lethal damage or anything, just little scratches, but it was deep enough for a little bit of blood to bubble up.
Mm-hmm.
After she cleans up Poppy's arm, she lays Poppy down for a nap. After Poppy is asleep, Louise asks the puppet, "What do you want?" And Pumpkin replies, "Where's Nancy?" He refuses to accept that Nancy is gone and not coming back.
Which, okay, so I hate Pumpkin. No, like, I don't think you guys are surprised, right? But in some ways, in this moment, my heart started to break a little. Like, I know he's a puppet, and this is a fictional story, and he's done a lot of really bad things. But again, I was going back to that scene where in my head, I saw him like in a booster seat. She's talking to him like a child. And I felt sad for Pumpkin because if he is this like real entity, right, which clearly he is, he's like attacking people. then he truly believes that Nancy is like his everything.
Yep.
I was like, man, this
Louise
sucks.
Louise says she died. He says, Pumpkin want Nancy. Do you know what die means? No die. Pumpkin always pumpkin. Everyone dies, Louise says. No, Nancy hiding and seeking. He says, Nancy promise, never alone. Pumpkin good boy, never alone. Pumpkin good. He began to stroke himself with his nubbins. You are good, but you need to go away now. Pumpkin stops rubbing himself, cocks his head at her, and then begins to giggle. Kee, 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 kee. Pumpkin home. And then Mark calls her back, and he convinces her to bring Poppy and come back to South Carolina. Because they're going to have a little intervention. So, chapter 31. Louise, Poppy, and Pumpkin fly to Charleston. I'll just say it was not an easy flight. I'll let y'all imagine what all happened with that flight. Just to save a little bit of time here. The only thing that keeps Pumpkin / Poppy from acting out is by promising that Nancy will be there. So they're on the way to Nancy. Mark picks them up at the airport. They're headed to the hospital because Aunt Honey's oxygen had dropped. And they need to get... Oh, Aunt Gail, who is Aunt Honey's daughter, is in the waiting room. Louise tries to delicately ask for her help, but Gail comes right out and says, quote, they were infested by demonic forces and I blasted them back to hell.
I love her so much.
So once Louise kind of explains what's going on, Gail agrees to help. Chapter 32, the family gathers at the house. I wanted to read this part real quick because it was kind of funny. Gail is talking to them. Am I on the right page? I don't know. I don't think that's the right page. But anyway, so Aunt Gail is basically gathering the family and just telling them, here's what we're going to do. No one's going to talk about this. Yeah. Then Gail says before they can tackle the house, they have to tackle the puppet, and she knows just the person. They go to her friend Barb's house. Evidently, she's an expert in cursed subjects or cursed objects. And when they get to Barb's house, her house is filled with dolls.
Barb's an interesting figure there. She's oh.
Yeah, I won't go into all that, but just know it was kind of creepy. So chapter 33, they basically start an exorcism. Gail commands the demon, she believes it to be a demon, to say his real name. Pumpkin goes on and on with distractions, and some of the dolls in Barb's house actually start to animate. Barb intervenes, and she gets on the floor with Poppy / Pumpkin and talks like a child. On page 355. Barb dropped the yellow M&M on the floor and plucked a green one out of the bowl. She held it up. Greenies are for special people, she suggested. For a moment, nothing happened, and then Pumpkin slowly stretched his head forward and began to stroke his lips against the green M&M. Why did Nancy deserve mean tricks, Pumpkin? Barb asks. Nancy locked Pumpkin away, put Pumpkin in dark. Pumpkin cries and cries, but mean Nancy won't help. She only cares about Limpy Man. That's my dad, Louise realized. So what did Pumpkin do? Pumpkin made him go away. So only Pumpkin and Nancy now. And Nancy got scared when you did that, Barb said. And she tried to help the Limpy Man and said they had an accident and got hurt. Did you want to hurt Nancy? No. You hurt other people too. So, you hurt Nancy's son. No care. You don't care that you hurt people Nancy loved? Fat boy start like Pumpkin, like baby, then grow. He get bigger, but Pumpkin stay same. Pumpkin never get bigger. Fat boy replace Pumpkin. So Pumpkin make Fat Boy go away. How old are you, Pumpkin? Barb asked. 5. Pumpkin 5. And have you always been Pumpkin? Shook his head. What did your name used to be? Freddie.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be Freddie. Mark realizes that it's their Uncle Freddie, Mom's brother. He was 5. So this isn't a demon. It's a ghost. So chapter 34, Louise tells Mark that they're going to visit Aunt Honey in the hospital because she's the only one who ever really knew Freddie. They have a little bit of back and forth with Aunt Honey because she doesn't want to tell the story. But they eventually get it out of how Freddie stepped on a rusty nail and died that same day. But Louise knows that isn't the real story because it takes at least 3 days for symptoms of lockjaw to set in. So he couldn't have died the same day.
No.
So Honey then motions to Poppy and says glad she kept that, talking about the puppet. That puppet had actually belonged to Freddie. So they finally get the real story. Nancy and Freddie had been on a trip with their parents. Nancy was told to watch her brother Freddie. She didn't. Freddie drowned in the hotel pool. But they still needed to know why Honey doesn't want them to sell the house in the first place. Honey is begging them to not make her tell. Turns out that Freddie was never buried in the family plot. He was buried in the backyard.
Mm.
So chapter 35, Mark drives them back to the house. They have a mission to go find Freddie. On the way there, Mark says that Spider is in the back of the truck. There's a little bit of struggle on the way to the house. I won't get into all that, but they all eventually make their way back to the house. And Pumpkin makes a beeline for the inside of the house. Chapter 36, every doll and puppet in the house is at the ready.
Mm-hmm.
Pumpkin unleashes them, basically a doll and puppet army. Mark and Louise hole up in the bathroom, and Mark has a revelation. He has been to Tiki Tiki Woods when he was in that puppet troupe. So he realizes that he thinks he knows where the bones are buried, and they're under this huge tree in the backyard. Louise rams open the bathroom window and runs. Chapter 37, Louise runs to the garage, grabs the shovel, and heads to the tree to start digging. Just as she starts, Mark runs out the back sliding glass door, followed by a huge monster. All of the dolls had come together to form this big humanoid shape, and they go to fight Louise. She's losing. Mark lets out a shrill whistle and says, "Sick 'em, boy." Spider is there and takes it down. Then Louise gets Spider to dig the hole because she lost her shovel fighting the monster. She finds the buried trunk of a 5-year-old body. She shows Pumpkin, and then an apparition of Freddie appears wearing Pumpkin. He asks for Nancy. She tells him that she's at the end of the world and he has to go find her himself. He's excited for the adventure, and Louise blacks out. The last part of the book is the acceptance stage. Mm-hmm. Chapter 38, Louise returns to the house a couple days later and calls a gutter. Poppy is in the hospital but is being released later that day. They have Uncle Freddie's funeral in October. And then we get a little bit of a time jump. A couple months later, Mark has completely renovated the house and they have a buyer from Toronto coming to look at it. Mark takes Louise and Poppy back to the house one last time. They do a final walkthrough. Mark tells her the new price, and it is much bigger than before, and he says half of that will be Louise's. And that's the end. I do have the Barnes & Noble Special Edition. There's a couple of things that are included in this that aren't in the standard. We get a funeral program of their funeral. It has the order of the service. It has a call to worship with the Reverend Michael Bullen. And then we have a performance by the Doll Wiggler Quartet of This Little Light of Mine. We have testimonials from various people. One of the puppet people is called Kitty Cat Camacho. Excuse me. Hold on one second. We have a musical interlude, a tribute to Nancy Joyner, and body music performed by Doogie Horner and his body.
God, great.
We have Candle in the Wind performed by the Troublemakers.
Sorry.
And we have a few testimonials. My Ducky Has Big Eyes, recited by Claire Zion. A silent meditation led by Oliver the Ostrich. We have Laura Corliss, the Dancing Meerkat. We have another musical interlude, Ein klein Nachtmusik, performed on the spoons. We have, hold on.
Someone please perform on the spoons at my funeral.
We have Kevin Kolsch and his dancing cat.
Oh, Lord.
We have The Three Pigs Aplenty. And we have interpretive ballet by Mr. Giraffe and his friends.
Oh,
the final song is Rainbow Connection by Kermit the Frog.
Which that makes sense, and that one actually made me cry a little. I was like, oh.
And the recessional is When the Saints Go Marching In, and it's performed by everybody on the kazoo.
Oh. I bet her mother would have loved this, though. Like, in all honesty, I think their parents would have, like, I don't know about the dad so much, but it sounds like.
Well, and then we also have like a little program of what Nancy's puppet show would have looked like.
Mm-hmm.
She delivers many shows full of learning and laughter aimed at teens.
Mm-hmm.
We have Smarty at the party. The smartest kid at the rave is the one who just says no. Dr. Wrong and Mr. Right. Sometimes Mr. Right can have a dark side.
Basically, guys, it's like if you were part of the DARE program, you understand exactly what this is.
Yes. Look up. We rely on our GPS and phones too darn much, and if we're not careful, they might take us to some unusual places. And at the bottom it says, call and book your joy today. Oh, good stuff, good stuff. So that is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix.
Highly recommend.
I feel like we covered the bulk of it. There are a few things I left out, but
yeah,
you get the idea.
Overall, we told you what happened. So I guess if you don't want to read it, you don't have to, but I would read it because there's a lot of like little nuanced things. You got a lot of there's a lot of great quotes from Aunt Honey, because all we really said is, oh God, we love her, but like we didn't go into depth on her. Aunt Honey is fantastic. The back and forth between Louise and Poppy's dad while she's like away is very important, I think, and critical. Like, no reason for like us to dive into it when we're doing that, but like it's if you're reading it, like there's a lot that's like really important. And there's actually a lot of foreshadowing if you're paying attention.
Yeah, there was.
But I really liked it. And I think if you are someone that has dealt with parental grief, it's kind of cathartic in a way. Like, I felt that way. I'd assume other people probably did as well. So I'm trying to see, how many stars did you give it?
I'm pretty sure I gave it 5. Let me double check.
I gave it 4. Because, I wanted to barf a few times, but.
I'm double checking.
The average rating.
Oh, no, I gave it 4.
You gave it 4?
I gave it 5.
So the average rating is 3.67, so we're kind of right in there. It was nominated. It was a Goodreads Choice Award for Best Horror of 2023. I actually did vote for it then because I had read it.
Yeah, I remember voting for it.
I feel like, in my opinion, Grady is very quickly, and I think I said this before when I've talked about his other books, he's very quickly become like no questions asked. If he says he has a new book, I'm buying it. He actually does have a new book coming out in January. I've already pre-ordered, called Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. So I am definitely a fan. For sure.
Yeah, I think the only one that I haven't read that's published is the Final Girl Support Group.
So I haven't read that one. Let's see.
I've read all his other ones, I think.
I feel like there's another one I'm missing as well. He's got some like short story kind of things that I've never read.
Did you read My Best Friend's Exorcism?
I did. Remember, that was like the first one that I read from him, actually.
Because I couldn't remember if you read that one or Horror Store first.
No, I read Best Friend's Exorcism first. Have you read We Sold Our Souls?
I've never heard of that.
Okay, so that's another one of his.
Okay.
Yeah, I found like a bunch of other stuff that he's come up with. Some of them are like where he's part of like anthologies. And then like he's got one called Ankle Snatcher. And so he's got a lot of stuff out there. I can't tell you which one's my favorite so far because each one of them have supplied me with something where they had like such a grip on me that I've not rated anything of his below 4 stars.
Yeah, no, they're all. I think I've rated all of his 4 or 5.
Yeah, I highly recommend from Grady Hendrix for sure.
Well, going with the theme of October, do you have any favorite spooky reads that you want to recommend to the people of the world?
So I will say yearly, I read. It's I think pretty much everybody has read this at this point, but I read Ray Bradbury's Halloween Tree. I read it every single year. It actually was adapted into like a cartoon movie back when I was a kid. I don't know when. It's sometime in the 90s. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not. But I love that. It's okay. Because I still know there's a lot of things that I mentioned. You're like, nope. And I'm like, it's okay. So I love, that's like I read it all the time one. Even though I'm not a kid, I also still really love every now and then picking up one of like the Goosebumps books. I think it's like a nostalgia thing. I'm trying to think of things that I have reread or like really love. Like this year I have created a list, like a fall TBR, like a spooky read list. I used to love, everybody's heard of them, the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the like black and red cover also from the 90s. Did you ever read those? Were you into anything like that? I've never really asked. Did you read any sort of like paranormal scary stories? I think probably no, because I know what you were allowed to read. But I know
I was like the scariest I got was Nancy Drew.
Hey, those Nancy Drews, were, I mean,
I think I was around 10 when I read one of the Goosebumps, and I got so freaked out that my mom was like, nope, never again. You're not. Because I'm a baby.
Okay. You don't like horror movies really either, if I remember.
No, I don't. No, I do like thrillers. Most of the time, thrillers tend to be more, I don't, like, I can never explain the difference, but there is a difference between thriller and horror, and I tend to gravitate toward thriller.
There is a difference between thriller and horror.
Like, let me be on the edge of my seat anticipating something, not cowering behind the couch waiting for something to happen.
I would think the main difference between thriller and horror would be, usually thrillers it's like a murder mystery or a suspense. Someone's missing, someone's been murdered, someone's like, possibly going to be more, they're on the run or they're going to be murdered. Horror, not only, sometimes it's paranormal, sometimes, like you said earlier, there's gore. Sometimes they crisscross though. Like the book that I just finished, I think even this Grady book is both. It's horror and thriller. Some people may not notice a difference. They may kind of like intertwine them because sometimes they both incite fear and excitement, and sometimes they both have like graphic violence. Yeah. But yeah, I think there's a huge difference. So I think there are a lot of people that like both and they intertwine for sure, but I think they are separate.
Yeah.
I also really love anything written by Edgar Allan Poe. He's always been one of my favorites. It sounds cliche, but yeah, The Raven is my favorite. Fall of the House of Usher is also really, really good. I'm looking at my shelf, just trying to see. I'm trying to think of like I don't know. I love Stephen King. He's technically horror. I had a copy of the Amityville Horror that looked like it was falling apart because I had read it so many times. Dracula, actually, that's horror.
Yeah.
Loved that one. I'm trying not to give you too many because I know you're typing all these. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I haven't read it in a long time, but I reread it. Oh, yeah, Coraline by Neil Gaiman is technically kind of like more, I'd say, younger, like not young adult, but like middle grade horror. But I mean,
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot of people that are like, listen, I'm an adult and I ain't watching that movie. Something Wicked This Way Comes, which is kind of horror, kind of just not. It's like sinister. You know it. A lot of people consider Interview with a Vampire horror.
It is.
I love it. Love it.
Well, I don't have any favorite ones just because I don't read horror too much. But I have read a quite spooky book that I can transition into our recent reads and acquisitions.
Sure.
The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein.
I really wanted to read this.
By Kiersten White. Let me type in her name real quick. It's a very short book. I read it in a day, literally a day. It was only...
I was like, geez,
Bianca. It was 281 pages.
Oh, that's not bad at all. That's
no.
Yeah,
but it's about Victor Frankenstein growing up, told through the lens of Elizabeth Frankenstein. Well, her name wasn't Elizabeth Frankenstein at the time, but she's basically a girl who grew up with the Frankenstein family, and she was basically placed there to be a companion for Victor, kind of keep him in check from all of his odd tendencies, and I'll leave it at that. It was very, very well written. It gives a lot of imagery. It's very Victorian Gothic, like think Sleepy, like to give you visual imagery. Think of these movies: The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. What's the one the musical that I said the other day?
Oh, hang on.
With Johnny Depp and the
Sweeney Todd.
Sweeney Todd, thank you.
Two of my favorites. My
favorite Crimson Peak. Like, think those imagery type things, and that gives you a good vibe for this book.
All fantastic movies.
It's not really spooky, but it is kind of dark, but it's also a dark comedy. Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis. This book was freaking hilarious.
I saw Easy Cat had this on his this month's book club thing that he runs. Like right after you said you read it, I saw it. I was like, ah!
It was so funny, but it's about a dark wizard who has lost all of his memories. And literally page 1, he wakes up not knowing who he is, what he's doing, what's going on, why he's wearing this filthy, disgusting robe, and why his eyebrows are missing.
You said that, and I was like, take my money.
It was a great time, but it can be considered a spooky read because it does have some dark vibes to it.
Gotcha.
Now, some other books that I've recently read that are not spookified at all. Susanna Clarke, Piranesi. I finally got around to reading that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that one.
I apologize to Joshua. I know this is your favorite book of all time and that you've read it 13 bazillion times and you own like 8 different copies. This book is not for me. It is for somebody else, and it is for you, Joshua. And I love you with all my heart.
Because of how you know what I like. Do you think it's for me?
No.
Really?
It's weird.
Yeah, but I love weird.
But this is weird. Once I had Josh explain certain elements of the book to me, like I kind of got it, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't get it the way you get it, but that's fine. I'm glad this book is for someone else.
All right, Josh, I'm going to read it. I'm going to need you to message me, okay? Okay.
And then I was kind of down and out this past weekend, so I did a reread of Fourth Wing. I read it in literally 12 hours.
Yes. Okay. No. I'm about to call you out. So she goes, do I read another book for my TBR, or do I just reread Fourth Wing? And I said something along the lines of like, what's calling to you more? She sends me a video of her literally getting Fourth Wing off the shelf. She proceeds to start reading. It's like 3 a.m. for me. I'm awake reading. Who cares? Then this morning to our group, I wake up to a message that goes, why did y'all let me do this? Ma'am, No. We didn't let you do anything. You said the book screamed at you and said, I must be read. We didn't let you. We didn't force you here. The book forced you.
I wanted my dragons, okay? And then I've only acquired one book, and I didn't buy it. It was gifted to me by a coworker. Mm-hmm. I got Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. It is a graphic novel. Well, no, it's a comic. I don't know what you call it. But it's DC. It's Supergirl.
It's a comic.
Yeah, but it's like thick.
That means it's a trade. That means it includes more than one issue. So I have actually read this one. I can't wait to see what you think. So the one you have is gonna be issues 1 through 8, I believe. Issues come out like monthly, essentially. So what that is they wait and they compile them all together into one thick. It's called a trade.
Okay. Yes, this was gifted to me by a coworker. So shout out Thomas, because he absolutely loves comic books. So I take this as a very high gift because I know that these are precious to him.
This one is phenomenal. He has very good taste if this is the one he gifted you. You know I love my comics, and this one is good.
So do you have any recent reads or acquisitions?
So I very briefly told you about Slewfoot already. Highly recommend. Think it's like not Salem, but absolutely think Witch Trials. Yes, it's just very mesmerizing. It is fantastic. And if you want to hate men for a moment, this is the book for you. I will say, if you have ever had any sort of like religious trauma, there might be some parts in here that like really upset you. Because again, we're talking about like during the witch trial time. I think it's like the 1680 or something is when this is happening. I don't remember the exact year, but it's like 16 something. So clearly there's a lot of like, this is wrong, the church, the Lord, like, so I could see where some people with religious trauma would have a little bit of issue. It did make me cry twice because I genuinely had a moment of realization that like there are women that actually went through what our main character is going through. So I highly recommend. I think I gave it 5 stars. I did give it 5 stars. I also read The Year of the Witching, which is Bethel Book 1. I gave it 4 stars. Also, Puritanical Society, almost cultish, because it's not like normal like church. This is like weird cult. Like they're cutting symbols of people's. Which one? The Year of the Witching?
Yeah.
That one is Alexis Henderson. Highly recommend. I did just discover that apparently there's a book 2, and I'm like, of course there is, and it's not out yet. Highly recommend. It kind of also goes in the spooky. Then I was also gifted an arc from one author that I've talked about a lot heavily over the last 2 years or year, Danielle Garrett. She's the one that had the I almost said Vampire Knitting Cloak. That's not her. She's the one that had all the Beechwood Harbor books that I just finished. The like Murder's a Witch, all of those I've talked about before. I think you've listed them before, so you don't have to put their name in here again. But this one was her first try at like a cozy mystery with like romantasy elements. Also very witchy, and it's called A Drop of Fortune, 4 Corners Coven Cozy Mystery. 5 stars. Thank you, Danielle, for sending me an arc. I loved it. If you like cozy mystery, cozy fantasy, kind of cozy mystery, cozy fantasy, witches, I think you'd enjoy this. It's a quick read. It's a lot of fun. It is 420 pages, but it's still quick. Like, cause you like get into it. It's fantastic. I already said We Used to Live Here. And then I'm currently reading Saturday Night Ghost Club. Hang on, I'll tell you who it's by, because I apologize, I cannot remember his name. Craig Davidson, The Saturday Night Ghost Club is what I'm currently reading. And actually, I will be done with it, like, tonight. That one is not very long at all. It's super quick. Fantastic. It's 250 pages. Going with my very, and it says if you, the reason I picked this one, it says short, irresistible, bittersweet coming of age in the vein of Stranger Things and Stand By Me. Misfit group of kids who spend an unforgettable summer investigating ghost stories and urban legends. Yeah, so it's really good.
Well, now that you've listened to us ramble for 2.5 hours, all the people of the podcast world,
welcome.
Join us back here next month.
Mm-hmm.
We will be doing a second chance author episode where both Miranda and I will be choosing separate books to talk about from authors that we didn't like the first time, but we're willing to give them a second chance.
Is willing the right word?
More like Bianca is coercing Miranda into this.
Listen, I am not complaining because this is a fantastic idea. For anyone else that has like a book podcast, if you're listening, hi, hello, tell us your name. This is fantastic. Like trying to give somebody a second chance, because I think we've talked about this before. Sometimes authors or even books are just not right for that moment, for that moment in your life. So I love the concept. It's just, I have said so much, not nasty, but like, I kind of really, really don't like my author, but so it's the right person to choose. It's the right one to go with for this topic, but I'm like,
anyways, tune back in November to hear our thoughts on these authors/books.
Yes. And where can people find you?
And you can find me on Instagram personally at @StylinFreak, and then also follow our podcast on Instagram as well. We are Bells with Books podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow Miranda at Mom's a Nerd. And on TikTok, find us there. Miranda's doing a fantastic job with content over on the TikTok. And tell us what's going on in the Place to Be Nation world.
We are still currently, as you are listening to this, in the middle of our Cartoons of Our Youth kind of tournament. That's what I'm calling it, because we also have a podcast on this channel called Cartoons of Our Youth. Check that out as well. But we're still going on with our tournament inside the Place to Be group on Facebook. If you would like to join, please just drop us a little thing and we will add you to the group. Actually, if you go to join, tell them you came from Bells with Books, because I'd really like to see more of you over there. We're voting for that, and it's going really well. There's some upsets taking place. Well, Miranda is upset. I don't know if everybody else is, but Miranda's upset. There are lots of things going on in our feed, the other feeds. If you're into wrestling, sports, books, movies, pop culture in general, then you are in the right place. Thank you for being part of Place to Be Nation. But I will say, with everything going on at Place to Be, and the new list is out. I forgot to mention this. We have our list. Every year I do something called #PTBN 31 Nights of Halloween. Inspiration from, of course, ABC Family, who is the OG of this. And this year, if you join the group, and we'll pop it up on mine and Bianca's socials as well, we have a 31 Nights of Movies. And then this year I created a family-friendly / kids edition as well. So technically you get 62 options. I think there might be a couple of repeats, but we'll pop those up. So join us in the group. Thank you for listening. We are so glad to have you here. And you know what? Always keep reading.